All right. We have an interesting one today. So today we are going to, against my better judgment, be watching the Andrew Wilson versus Pearl Davis debate that happened I believe a couple days ago. Let me see. Yeah, I think it was yesterday or the day before. And normally I wouldn't subject myself to something like this in particular. Neither of these people are people that I support in any way, particularly. So, wouldn't be my normal cup of tea. However, I heard that this was an absolute shit show. Um, like a complete shit show. And basically, what they are debating, I guess, is the topic of marriage. And for those who don't know who these people are, I'll give you a little overview. First, here we have Pearl Davis. This was on Pearl's show, also known as Just Lonely Things. I mean, Pearly Things. And basically, she is some would call her Red Pill, some would call her MGTOW. She's basically a men's rights activist. And her content, for the most part, is just kind of shitting on women and the concept of marriage and just kind of saying like men should do whatever on earth that they want all the time. And yeah. Now, when we say red pill, just so everyone understands, red pill is not a prescription. Um, Red pill is basically like an info packet of prescriptors. Some of them are technically correct, some of them are pretty far out. Um, and then all the people that we kind of consider to be red pill are red pill prescriptionists. So they all have a slightly different idea of how you should take the red pill information packet and apply it to your lives. Um, these people would include people like Myron and the Fresh and Fit podcast, Andrew Tate, Rollo Tomasi, Michael Sartain, among other people. And they all have kind of a slightly different view on how men should approach relationships and dating in the current years. Now, Pearl doesn't really give prescriptions so much as she just highlights all the negative things from the info packet. She's basically like a red pill info packet reader. I don't really understand why anyone watches her content because she doesn't actually give any meaningful advice or anything really. Um, she is frequently referred to as a pick me. However, she has most certainly not been picked by anyone. I believe she's just sort of perpetually single. Hence the nickname Just Lonely Things. And yeah, that's pretty much Pearl Davis in a nutshell. She's, I believe, pretty conservative, but she doesn't really get super involved with politics. She mostly just kind of shits on other women, and that's about it. Um, so our other debater today is Andrew Wilson. Now, Andrew hosts a show called The Crucible along with a couple other people. This guy named Pedro, I can't remember his last name. That other guy, Zen Shapiro, I believe, is part of the Crucible, or at least they were. Um, and he is a professional debater. He does online debate courses and takes part in a load of high stakes professional debates um, against liberals, leftists, conservatives, against all kinds of people, all sorts of topics. So he's definitely a prescriptionist, although I wouldn't call him red pill. Andrew Wilson is a conservative Christian ethicist. He's a Trump supporter, and he basically wants the United States to go back to being kind of a Christian nation, guided by Christian morality and ethics. And that pretty much sums up all of his positions right there. If you know what the guiding Christian Orthodox principles are, then you pretty much know what Andrew Wilson wants for the world. He debates from this perspective usually, but tries to do it using secular arguments. But he usually ends up falling back on what he believes is his objective Christian morality. I don't really see how that's objective, but we can get into that in another video. And so anyway, he has one view about marriage and Pearl has another view, and apparently this debate gets um very cringy, very interesting, and all that. So we're gonna get into that and we will see how this goes. Andrew Wilson returns to Pearl daily.
I think right now we're at like 15,000, and we had a decent donation. Someone donated. Right. Now we're going to talk to Andrew Wilson, the
Here we
304
go.
Destroyer.
304 Destroyer.
How's it going, Andrew?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me back. I wanted to revisit the conversation we'd had
Sure.
when I went out there in person. I thought we had kind of a bit of a spirited back and forth. I know that we agree on a lot of descriptors, but some of the prescriptors I thought we could get into again.
Okay.
After I was thinking about some of your points, especially. So
being cordial so far. We'll see.
Sure.
moving back, I wanted to start with this. Do you agree with me that promiscuity in women is generally bad?
Sure.
You don't think that that's a good thing?
I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole because good and
Okay.
bad doesn't matter. I'm in the business of predicting.
I don't know what she thinks that means, but Pearl definitely gives her opinion on good or bad all the time. So I don't know what planet she thinks she's on right now, or maybe she slipped into a dream.
Okay.
So
Well,
if I had
from
to
a
predict where it's going to go, women are going to keep getting promiscuous.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So your
And-
predictive model, I agree. I'm not going to get into like more
Even though all the statistics show that Gen Z is leaning in the other direction, but okay.
morals or ethics with you. That's not what I mean by good or bad, like moral or immoral,
Right.
right? But like, is it bad for women generally to be promiscuous? Like, does it lower their value structure?
You could say that, yeah, but I don't
Okay.
really always see promiscuous women have bad outcomes in real life, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Did she just say unfortunately?
Promiscuity in women is generally bad.
Sure.
You don't think that that's a good thing?
I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole because good and
Okay.
bad doesn't matter. I'm in the business of predicting.
Okay.
So
Well,
if I had
from
to
a
predict where it's going to go, women are going to keep getting promiscuous.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So your
And-
predictive model, I agree. I'm not going to get into like morals or ethics with you. That's not what I mean by good or bad, like moral or immoral.
Right.
Okay, so she's not going to make any moral claims. We all heard that.
Right? But like, is it bad for women generally to be promiscuous? Like, does it lower their value structure?
You could say that, yeah, but I don't
Okay.
really always see promiscuous women have bad outcomes in real life, unfortunately.
And there it is. Unfortunately. If she's not making a moral or value claim, then why would it be unfortunate that promiscuous women aren't getting negative ramifications in society? Okay, so we're less than like 2 minutes in, and Pearl has already contradicted herself, which is classic. Anyway, let's see where this is going.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, because if it is the case that you think that men are going to check out of society, they're going to check out and become promiscuous because marriage is a raw deal, right? Then you're actually assigning.
Some men don't care enough to even like some men are just going to check out. They're not even going to try to get sex.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So, but wouldn't you be assigning these promiscuous women value then? Wouldn't they actually be a valuable asset to society if it is the case that if men can't get married and can just play the field and have sex with tons of women, wouldn't they actually be very valuable to men then?
Why would they be valuable to men?
Well, because obviously men want to fuck them, right? And if they're
well,
loose
men
and
need
willing to,
men need sex, right?
Yeah,
that is a need
then,
for a guy.
So then these women would be valuable, right?
Well, I think if they were valuable, they'd marry them, wouldn't they?
Well, so yeah,
like
well, this is a fundamental question though. If you're not
okay, she just completely contradicted herself, saying that there aren't any social ramifications, which mean these women are still retaining value even though they're being promiscuous. But if they did have value, the men would be marrying them.
That's the whole point.
If you're not going to marry them and you're just going to have sex with them, then the value's in the sex itself.
Yeah. I mean, men do want to have sex. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that would be what would make women valuable, is that they were essentially that they were hoes, essentially, would make them valuable. I mean,
they bring more value than the wives that are married and they don't sleep with their husbands.
You think
what? What? What percentage of marriages even is that? I don't. Okay.
Do you think hoes bring more value than wives?
Than ones that don't sleep with their husbands, which is really common.
Yeah. Well, I went through and pulled a bunch of the stats, right? So, especially when it comes to sexless marriages, that usually happens years into the marriage, over a decade, in fact, before that starts.
After the youngest kid goes to preschool.
Yeah, that's often the case. And often those are only for limited amounts of time, right? Though not always, right? But it's actually a more isolated case. When I look at this is from Petrelli Privatira LLC. They made a study on this. We're talking about Christian marriage, because you're asking, what's the incentive for men to get married? Well, from a secular standpoint, I think I agree with you that secularist men probably shouldn't. It looks like it doesn't look very good for them.
We're in a secular society, Andrew.
Not yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet.
You don't think it's pretty secular now?
Not yet.
Like what percent of people even attend church weekly?
Well, that's true, but 70% of the population does consider themselves to be, at least self-identifies as Christian.
But don't you need actions to match that?
Yeah, you do. But interestingly enough, there must be, because...
Bro, is she ever going to stop interrupting? She's already interrupted him like 10 times. Like, stop for 2 seconds.
It's only 20-25% of Christian marriages which end in divorce at all.
I mean, that's, again, what you guys say, right?
I mean, that's what the stats show.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 to 25%.
But Gen Z, you don't know what Gen Z is going to be. And
neither do you.
That's the whole point.
Wouldn't they follow the same trends, roughly?
I would guess it would be worse.
Why?
Because Gen Z women are the first women that are on social media.
That's not true. Millennials were absolutely on social media, not from as young of an age, but we absolutely were on social media. We were the ones who had Facebook first. We had MySpace before that. We had AOL Instant Messenger and all that kind of stuff. We were definitely and I'm a younger millennial, and we were definitely the first ones with social media. So I don't know what she's talking about.
Plus, divorce keeps going up over time.
Can you please just hear me out? No, all work management platforms are the same. They take forever to learn.
Well, divorce is lower now than it has been ever.
Right, because people aren't getting married. Because you're kind of trying to
The
divert.
divorce isn't going up,
Because the
right?
thing is, you're trying to divert from the question.
Okay, you just said, I can't believe I'm just siding with Andrew Wilson on this so far. She just said divorces are going down. I mean, up. Andrew said, no, the statistics show that divorces are actually not going up. And then she said it's because less people are getting married, which is not actually true. People are just getting married a lot later. That's not less people getting married. That's people getting married later. And now she's just saying that he's moving the goalposts around? What?
If you want marriage to increase, you have to give a good answer to the question.
Because it's the only way that you can have. It's the only way you can have children without.
Okay, now we're going to disagree with Andrew. Obviously, you can have children outside of wedlock, and you can still have children in a two-parent household outside of wedlock. Marriage is a statistic, is just on paper. I don't think it counts common law marriages when they do those statistics and studies and stuff.
Without single motherhood.
What do children get out of marriage?
Well, if mommy and daddy aren't married, right, then the children have very, very bad outcomes. Single mother homes have terrible outcomes, and single father homes aren't tenable, generally speaking, because they're the working parent, right? So the only way for men to have families is through marriage.
So what do women get out of marriage?
They generally get resources. They generally get resources, and they get access to status, social status, security, things like this.
Sometimes resources and security, they also get children. They also get stability and all the same things that a man would get out of marriage.
And what do men get out of marriage?
They get children out of marriage.
Okay. And what do they get out of marriage that they couldn't get from just a live-in girlfriend?
That's a point. You can have the live-in girlfriend. You can even call it more than that if you wanted to. And you can still have children. Now, Andrew is citing that single-parent homes have worse outcomes for kids. I don't know if this includes two-parent homes that are unmarried. I never hear them bring up that statistic because they're always like, oh, well, if you're not married, your children have worse outcomes. But it's, whenever I've looked into it, the studies show that single-parent homes have worse outcomes. But there's that whole group in the middle of unwed couples that have kids and raise them together. So I'm not sure where either of them are going with this.
Mothers. So here's, an intact family, in other words.
Okay,
so
they can't,
here's the thing:
if you have if the woman lives with him.
Yeah,
what's the difference?
the thing is when we look at
and
the
social,
hang on. Well, let me respond to it.
Go ahead.
If we look at the social data for what you're talking about, this happens all the time. That's called a single mom, right? You live with the chick, you impregnate the chick, you're not married to the chick. Those end up in the most.
Crowder's in the same position.
Steven Crowder has nothing to do with this part of the conversation. He was married to her for several years. Yeah, they got divorced because he was being a prick. What does that have to do with this?
So are a lot of
he doesn't have children with some. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have children with some live-in girlfriend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, but he's not with the mother of his kids now. He had a really public divorce.
Yeah, but this is a different.
So I know, but my point is, you can say data all you want, but when people are witnessing conservative people that pushed a lot of this stuff getting divorced, men are going to naturally do a cost-benefit analysis and realize there's no difference.
So here's the cost benefit. Here's a cost benefit analysis, Em.
And so
if you say,
holy God, stop interrupting, Pearl. I mean, I get it. It's her show technically, but I mean, I'm whining about two not good faith debaters being bad faith to each other. So I don't even know where I'm going with that.
So
If you say that
my
men,
other
okay.
question too would be, who do the kids belong to? Do they belong to him or do they belong to her?
Yeah, so I believe in patrilineal society. I think that
Mhm.
children belong to their fathers
Right.
and
but-
always have thought so. And that would be a form of reform inside of
Okay, patrilineal does not mean that the children belong to the father. That's crazy. That's not what that means.
the. By the way,
Right,
traditionally, this was
in-
always the way it
But in
happened.
society today, where women get custody 90% of the time, who do the kids belong to? Do they
That's
belong
not the case
to her?
anymore.
They
They
belong
don't
to
get
the
it
state.
90% of the
Do they
time now.
belong to her? Do they belong to her or do they belong to him?
Well, they belong to the court system. They're the
Okay,
ones who make the
okay.
allocation.
And where are the majority of the time who gets
Mm-hmm.
custody?
Yeah, that's generally speaking women. I agree.
Okay, so what do men get out of marriage? If
Yeah,
the
so I'm
majority
gonna-
of the
I'll-
time
yeah.
the kids belong to her and not him.
Okay, but here's the thing. You got to
Mhm.
let me actually answer.
Okay.
So I'll try to answer this question, but it's
Mhm.
comprehensive. So
Mhm.
the step one, you have to reform the system, the court system. Men have to move towards the reformation of the court system.
Mhm.
Is that challenging? Yes, but prenuptial agreements, as cited, I went and looked at the data again.
Mhm.
They are mostly enforced. That is the case.
Right,
When
but
it comes to
when they're contested,
hang on,
Pearl,
Pearl, let me finish, Pearl.
when
Let me
they're
finish.
contested,
Why won't she let him finish a single sentence?
because when they're contested,
because
you're
like,
still
I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to make a point. Only you're allowed to make points.
You're still gonna get dragged to court. That's the problem. So a lot of guys, if the
No,
prenup
you're not.
is
You're
contested,
not going to get dragged to court. This is the issue, right?
Okay,
Like
okay.
this is a performative contradiction. Here's how.
Okay.
Because you say that women are reliant upon these men for resources.
Mhm.
That's what women are getting out of it. So why is it if you had a prenup, they're not going to get resources? Why would they drag them to court?
Mhm.
Well, even if you have a prenup, I'm pretty sure your spouse, depending on the discrepancy in your incomes, is usually afforded about 40% of whatever you made during the marriage. Again, it depends on your income disparity and the particular state and court that you're in, but even with a prenup, the wife can still get some money out of it. But again, only like 10% of divorced men end up paying alimony. Like,
Why?
Because they're spiteful. Why did Crowder's
But
wife?
they would be
Why did Crowder's wife?
because she got
why
a
did-
bunch
why
of
did-
fucking money.
I know, but why did Crowder's wife leak
Yeah.
footage to the press? She didn't have to do that. She'd probably
Because she thought
get-
it would help her case for resources.
Right, but the problem is in the court of public opinion. Women are spiteful. It's not always about money. Ashley St. Clair was offered a ton of money just to shut up, right? She didn't shut up.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right?
Um,
Ashley St. Clair is going to get the money either way, right? She has the kid in the arrangement. That was not a marriage.
Mhm.
Inside of a marriage, if Crowder had signed a prenup, I bet you things would have been completely different across the board. Same thing with most men who are wealthy who sign prenuptial agreements. They end up women want the resources. That's the whole gain, right? I want the resources. If they can't get the
Right.
resources, it's an incentive for the behavior. Not only that, but here's the other thing. If you promote against marriage, against the idea of marriage, and
they constantly just talk about the 10% of like not great women as if they are literally all of them. And this just is not borne out in the statistics or reality or any of it. I don't get it.
and I'm not saying that you like this idea that I'm Michael Knowles or something. I'm telling men, just take the plunge and take the risks. No, we're both doing risk mitigation. Pearl's doing risk mitigation. I'm doing risk mitigation. What I'm saying with Pearl saying with risk mitigation is for no man is it ever worth it. So just play the field.
I did
That's
not
gonna
say
make
that. I did not.
Well,
I don't
I
tell
mean-
men what to do.
Okay.
I don't think it's my
I
place.
think it ultimately reduces to that though.
Mhm.
So the thing is that my position is just this: risk mitigation. If you want to have children in a family, the best outcome for the kids it's going to be marriage. Like no matter what, it's going to be marriage. But
Right,
you have to do risk mitigation.
That's what's in it for the kids.
And for the man.
Not for the man, because when you get married, you're just adding on another layer
Of what?
of now she can go for alimony. Because a lot of times it's not about the money, Andrew. I mean, yeah, like sometimes it is the money, but it's like men want to stop dealing with crazy women. Like the amount of money men will pay to get a wife to stop nagging him. And now she can, if she chooses, contest the prenup and drag him to court. He could agree with the terms that she like asks for or whatever just to get it over with. But
prenuptial agreements are generally upheld. I don't know where they keep getting this info from. This is something Brian Atlas says on the Whatever podcast a lot too. That like the prenup doesn't really mean anything because they can just throw it out. It usually they're good.
But it's like the spitefulness of women. It's not necessarily always the money. And so again, you're going back to, well, it's best for the kids, right? But you don't answer the question, what's best for him?
Having a family is what's best for him.
Right.
By every single conceivable metric, having a family is what's best for men. It lowers the rates of STDs. It earns the earning income goes up. Their general welfare and happiness in a happy marriage goes way up. We can tell because we can look at the suicidality of men who have gone through terrific divorces or who stay single, right? And their depression rates are sky high. All of these things are sky high.
Why do you think they make more money in marriage?
Well, that would be the incentive for their kids.
Well, right. To keep up with kids are cheap. It's women's spending habits that are expensive. Right? The Botox, the clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, we had your wife on.
Most women are educated and work now. Like just remember, everyone who's watching this, they are only ever talking about like 10% of human beings. The other 90% are just normal people.
We had your wife on, and she was going through the costs of kids. It's not as expensive, seemingly, as what people say, according to.
Yeah. So I just real quick though, 90% is up to 90%. The vast overwhelming majority of prenuptial agreements are not successfully contested in court. It seems like a massive incentive for women if they want to hold their resources, even from a secular side, to do this. But if you combine this with the Christian side, the Christian ethics side of very religious women, the divorce rate goes down to damn near nil.
Okay. Well, are most women religious in this society?
No.
Okay.
But neither are most men.
Okay. Right. But so now you're going into like selling your religion, right?
Well, only if you want to have a family. If you want to have the most successful family, yeah.
Right, but I mean, Orthodox is 1% of the population. I'm not a religious show.
It's not just for Orthodox.
Yeah, but Christianity is 70%. He's not, it's all Christians do have better marriage outcomes than non-Christians, generally speaking. Not that that's really a great point, but her point of 1%, that's literally irrelevant.
What I'm talking about is, and again, you're not really answering the question. You're saying you might get your kids.
No, what I'm saying is that by every single conceivable metric which is available for men, what is considered the loneliness epidemic, or the number one reported mental health issue for men, is that they're lonely. They feel lonely. Right. If that is the case and loneliness goes away when they get married, then it seems like what would be really good for men would be to get married in a good, stable relationship. Your counter is, but there's not that many marriageable women.
Correct.
But there's never always.
I know, but you agree with that, right? So most men aren't getting a marriageable woman.
Most men never got one.
Right. So most men, marriage isn't for them.
Yeah, but you can't create the conditionals.
Most men, like if out of 2 men or 10 men, over 6 aren't going to get a good deal, right?
But they never did. They never got a good deal.
So are you telling them to take a bad deal?
No, I'm just.
What Andrew is referring to is the fact that historically, generally speaking, it was not most men that got to reproduce. Most women did get to reproduce, but most men did not. But that was because the disparity between men was so astronomically huge, and the practice of monogamy was not as culturally enforced as it is now. What monogamy does to a society is it spreads that out much more evenly so that more people have partners. It's better for the society at large, generally speaking. she's acting as though that there was never that giant part of multiple centuries in the middle where all of that happened. She's just acting like that didn't happen at all. But I guess we'll see what Andrew has to say about that.
And what I'm telling them specifically is very simple. That the historic fact of the matter is that most men never got to reproduce at all.
Right.
Your chances of reproduction now are way higher than ever. And
Exactly.
the reason the sex drive is so high for men is because it's a biological imperative for reproduction. Otherwise, you wouldn't get a boner and want to go have sex, right? Especially not with good-looking, younger-looking women. That's the whole point of it. If you
Studies show that most men do find women from about the age of like 20 to 26 the most physically attractive. However, other studies and even similar studies also show that men prefer to date women that are closer to their own age across the board. So men, yeah, sure, maybe I can, like, we acknowledge that certain women are potentially more attractive, but that's not who we're interested in.
If you want stability in society, which is good for men, you want stability against degeneracy, which is also very good for men, then you want stable marriages for men.
What does society give men in return for producing a stable society?
A stable society? What do you mean? What do you mean? When we produce a stable society, the reward is that we get to live in a stable society. I don't even... Who? Bruh. Okay.
What do they give men in return?
Well, society never gave men anything for the production of stable societies.
Fine, but I'm asking today, what do they give them in return?
Yeah, I mean,
do they give them? Do they treat them well?
What men get in exchange for having a stable society is they get a stable society. That's the.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Andrew. God, it feels weird agreeing with Andrew.
Exchange. That's always
But that's how bad PERAL is.
Been the exchange. Like, historically, men have always been fodder. They've always been war fodder. They've always been basically treated poorly. But the idea here that we have to make perfect conditionals for marriage absent any risk or mitigating risk is silly. That's impossible no matter what.
If men keep getting married, what is the incentive for the laws to change? Where is the incentive?
Well, hang on. They can still get married absent the state, and that would still create conditionals for the laws to change.
If men keep having children, what is the incentive for society to give them fairer laws?
Well, what do you mean? If they have children and there's prenuptial agreements in place, women now have incentive to not destroy their own financial security for the future.
But again, so you're saying, well, she won't completely ruin your life, right? You're not saying a reward.
Yeah, but let's start with the fact that
you get enthusiastic sex with a hot wife.
But there's a lot of you missed the point though that there's a lot of marriages that work.
Statistically,
what about the fact
that
there's so many marriages that work?
Statistically, that's just not true.
Well, okay, let's look at the statistics since you want to bring them up.
Go ahead.
You're looking at an estimate of 40%. 40% of the marriages are failing. Okay, the vast majority of them are still not, and as less people get married, those marriages are actually working out longer.
What is the obesity rate in America?
Oh, it's overwhelming for men and women.
Okay. Are most men ecstatic to take on this enormous risk and responsibility for a fat wife?
No.
Okay. So again, you have to answer the question, what's in it for guys?
I'm answering the question. So what's in it for men is the only thing that's ever been in it for men. Family.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be a good enough answer. If you're right, then men are going to sign up to get married. You don't have to convince me.
Yeah, but what about like the qualifiers of men have to live in this world?
Right.
We have to live in this world. We live in a world full of degeneracy and basically horrifying things because of the instability of society. And you almost disempower them in a way because you're saying they don't have the power to change the nature of law.
I just want them to make an informed decision.
Yeah,
that's it.
But I mean, the informed decision towards what? Their happiness?
Whatever they want to do. It's not my place to tell
men.
Well,
Okay, she keeps repeating this. It's not my place to tell men, but she's fighting so hard against every statistic, and Andrew's making some rational arguments. Granted, they're all from the Christian worldview, so they only apply to some people. But he's making rational arguments and laying out a plan for how you could reach this in theory. And she's just keeps repeating, like, you need to make a good argument. He's making an argument. And she keeps saying, I'm not giving prescriptions, but when you're saying one thing and all these other things are wrong, and you're only really leaving one other option, you're kind of making a prescriptive for that last option. So she can say she's not in the business of telling men what to do while she's doing that exact thing all day, as long as she wants. But that doesn't change the fact that she is doing that exact thing.
You think they want to be happy?
It's not my place to tell men how to live.
Well, do you think they want to be happy though?
Well, I think that happiness is
I don't think she thinks very often.
Goes. So I don't really.
So you don't want them to be happy?
I think
you just want to do what they want?
No, I didn't say that. I said it's a feeling that comes and goes.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I don't think
I would think ultimately
on,
you would want men happy, right?
I want them to do what they want to do.
Okay, well, do you think that most men want to be happy?
I'm not a preacher channel, right? I'm not here to tell you how to live.
If you just want them to
right now, I'm just talking about the facts.
Mm-hmm.
The facts of the matter are, don't you think men...
Then why say anything at all? I want men to do what they want to do. Then what is the point of you? What are you doing here?
And want to be happy.
Well, if marriage makes them happy, then I'm sure they'll sign up. I'm sure the marriage rates will go up.
Yeah, that's not an answer to the question I asked.
Sure.
The question I asked specifically is, do you think men want to be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you think that men want to be happy, and if we look at all of the data that we can possibly find on male promiscuity and happiness, it doesn't look very good for them. Okay. So even if it were the case that you advocate against marriage, which is fair, especially secular marriage, which is even more fair.
I don't advocate against marriage. I see it.
I'll try not to straw man it.
I see it disappearing from the middle class completely. I see it just becoming something that the rich do. And I see the birth rates continuing to decline, and I see marriage going away because people like you can't give men good answers on why they get married. Should accumulate that risk.
What did men ever get?
You're saying risk 40% of your income for 18 years. If you have 2+ children, the woman can take you to court and take 40% of your income. It's not that every woman will. It's that every woman can.
Pretty sure it's about
into a marriage contract,
10%.
Now answer my question. What did men ever get out of marriage? What did men ever get out of marriage?
I don't really care about what they got in the past.
Answer my question. What did they ever get out of marriage?
But I don't care because I'm talking about the facts
I don't care
today.
if you don't care. Answer the question. What did men ever get out of marriage?
I don't care.
Well,
it's about because we have to operate. We have to operate.
For marriage
what does a guy care about what happened 100 years ago? He cares about the decisions he has to make today.
Yeah, I know, but
he has to use
you're
the
like
facts
a question
today.
avoiding machine.
No, you want me to.
True, she is a question avoiding machine.
You want me to do what you do, which is prescribe. I don't prescribe.
I'm not even asking for prescriptions. Okay. I'm asking right now for a description. What did men ever get out of marriage? What?
Yeah, well, I can think it's a stupid question. So like, I don't think it matters.
What did they ever get out of it? Ever?
I don't know. Tell me.
You don't know.
No, go ahead. No, tell me.
They got the same thing I'm prescribing, which is a family. That's the what else would the incentive ever be?
And again, if that's so great, then men will sign up. If that's great,
so
like if a product's good, there's a big demand, right?
There is a big demand. Men want to get married.
Sure. Then
but
if they wanted to, they would, right?
That's not necessarily true. Men do generally want to get married. We are going through a little phase of history where the sort of culmination of quite a few different social trends has led to less women wanting to get married, but that's like a separate issue that we could likely remedy if we, you know, weren't so busy worrying about other things.
We talk past each other's like, if if you describe all the issues, that's fair,
Yeah.
right? But the description of the issue is supposed to be for the purpose of what men do best, which is solving the issue. I don't mind you giving all the descriptors. I think that's great. But
Okay.
the idea of like, Andrew, what do men get right now? That's not a good enough reason. What did men ever get out of it? It's the same reason. It must be
Well,
the
then-
best reason.
Then run for office. Run.
I mean, I would much rather
Run.
Please don't run for office.
fund NGOs so that I could get people in key positions to change law. But
Go.
the same
Please don't do that either.
principle.
Go do
But
it.
what I'm saying to you is like, from a
do it.
descriptive standpoint,
that's
I
the
am
point.
doing
Like,
it.
it's-
I have been doing it.
Okay, then I'm
Please stop.
sure there'll be great change in the next 10 years.
Well, we're gonna try,
and
right?
I'll be completely wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, the trends can continue to nosedive. But let's assume for
This face right here that Pearl keeps making, this is the same face that she was making when she was getting absolutely destroyed by Ethan Klein a year or two ago, I think. Which, by the way, if you lose a debate to Ethan Klein, that's just sad. I mean, nothing against Ethan, but he's not a debater at all. He did he did perform pretty well against Hassan recently, but again, that's not saying much. For someone who purports to be this conversationalist prediction machine who engages in debates like Pearl, getting absolutely slapped around by Ethan Klein is unbelievably embarrassing. But anyway, my point, the face that she's making right now is the same face that she was making during the Ethan Klein debate, which is the I'm just going to keep repeating my talking points now. I'm not going to engage anymore. I've basically checked out because I know that I'm getting absolutely obliterated. And this is the face she makes every time she's getting absolutely obliterated. And it's I don't know, it's such a off-putting, cringe-inducing face.
a second that like it all nosedives.
Mhm.
What does the future look like then?
Well, I don't think there'll be change until my prediction is we'll only see change when society crumbles enough for women to face the consequences of their decisions.
And what happens then?
Then there might.
Hold on. So it is women. It's not that men don't want to get married. It's women's fault. You got to pick a lane, Pearl.
Be change. That's what I
Okay,
would
but what-
predict.
but I
I would
mean,
say
what
I would
happens?
I would predict that things go down until things are falling apart enough, and then maybe there'll be a policy change. Maybe.
Meaning that
probably
we can fix.
not. Probably not.
Meaning we can
but,
fix the problems, right?
Not anytime soon.
No, but when we reach this like plateau,
Sure.
so then wouldn't it logically
Potentially.
follow then that we should accelerate the decline as quickly as possible to reach that plateau to fix these things?
Sure. If that's
Yeah.
what,
So
sure.
then that's an accelerationist mindset, right?
Is it?
I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm saying I don't see them changing
Yeah.
anytime soon. That's it. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think.
but-
I don't
but
think in
ul-
my
but-
lifetime there'll be major.
But
policy
ultimately, do you
changes.
want to see them change?
It would be nice.
Yeah. So then if that's the case, I'll just assume the position for a moment, your position, just descriptors, here's where we're going. It would still be really wise to have men's rights advocacy groups and things like this in place for this inevitable decline so that those types of policies can then be pushed so that we're like ready for them, right?
Sure, but the first one was in 1910, so I don't. If we're where we are today, and the first one was over 100 years ago.
The first what? Policy?
No, the first men's right to advocacy. I think it was around 1910. I don't know the exact.
Yeah, but they were
year.
advocating for completely different things, right?
I mean, I saw ones about divorce law early in the 1900s. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but didn't they just want their wives to be completely unable to divorce them for any reason? I think that's what she's talking about in the 1910s, which is terrifying.
divorce, it used to be we had coverture laws. So, I mean, coverture laws basically In that case, you had to have show cause in order to get divorced under coverture laws, things like that. It was most of the early 1900s, I believe. So the thing that's interesting, though, is like,
I
as I
don't,
look
but
at
my
this,
my point is I just don't see it being effective because the last 100 years it's gotten worse, not better. So why would I
yeah, but
think? Okay, go ahead.
yeah, but I mean, so the thing is like things have gotten better. Abortion laws have been rolled back, right?
But
Men's
Plan
advocacy,
B's gone up.
true. Only in
Yeah.
some states, though. I went and checked the stats on that as well.
Sex work has gone up too.
But you know what else is going down is female promiscuity and male promiscuity over time.
Right.
And what's interesting,
But STD rates are up. So how do you explain
because
that?
sex work is up.
Okay, well,
Again, they're talking about a tiny percent of the population. So when Pearl is saying, oh, STDs are up and yeah, right, promiscuity is down, Andrew's correct. On a societal level, across the board, promiscuity has been going down with Gen Z. The reason STD rates are going up is because among a small percentage of Gen Z, they're being way more promiscuous than anyone's ever been. So the STD rates are going up, but it's not because promiscuity is going up.
That's not what the guys dating are saying, but okay.
Yeah, because they're dating women who have only, I mean, you're talking
Sure.
about like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 now.
The guys dating is the 1,000 men that are sad enough to talk to Pearl on her podcast.
Sure.
It can have an OnlyFans. The sex work epidemic has exploded STDs. I mean, we can look at this objectively.
When's the last time you dated? Yeah. Like, when's the last time you actually dated?
Oh, it's been fucking, I don't know, like, what, 17 years
so
or something?
So how do you think you know better than the guys dating? Like, what's out there?
I mean, when's the last time you dated?
Like a year ago? Year and a half ago?
Okay, so from your sample size, you think that in 17 years the marketplace for dating has changed so much that I'm not allowed to have any input in it?
Oh no, I just don't think you really know what's on the ground if you haven't done it in 17 years, because the advent of social media has changed the dating marketplace a lot, like a lot.
True.
Yeah. Why do you think? Wait a second. Back up.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you think that you couldn't have input and research the stat. I'm using the same stats you're using. Like, it's not, and I have the same conversations with thousands of people you have, men and women both. The same exact,
right.
the same amount of anecdotal evidence and statistics, right?
Sorry, what I could say, maybe a better way to say it is, I think it's like an oversimplification of the problem when you're saying, oh, it's just like bad women that these guys are dating. Like, I don't really think it's that simple.
That's not what I said at all.
Or it's
what
just,
I said is that the conditionals,
it's just sex worker women that these guys are dating, right?
No, that would account for one thing, STDs. Okay. The STD rates going sky high.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so what I gave you was the answer that you're always looking for. The men get out of marriage, same thing they always got out of it, a family. And why is it that men are always gravitating towards family? Well, it seems to be biologically hardwired in them because they've always done that.
Sure, it is.
So if that's the case, their happiness levels intrinsically tied to that. It seems that if you wanted to advocate for men, then you would be advocating the most for the idea of keeping marriage sacrosanct and also making sure that these things got reformed as quick as possible.
Okay, if someone took your prescription, can you give me like step by step your prescription for how men, if to get married, stay married, what's your prescription?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say, you keep on framing this as though I'm saying take a plunge when I'm not saying take a plunge.
That's totally fine. Tell me what's beginning to end.
First,
so where should they source?
I would look at these stats.
No, not the stats. Where should they source the women from? Like, what state should they go to?
What is she's on a different planet right now. I don't.
What church? I'm guessing you're going to say Orthodox.
Okay, so I'll answer your question, right? You're not going to find huge variances state by state. Okay. You're just not going to, okay? But you can definitely upgrade the chances of you finding a woman who's not going to have these behaviors, which you and I would both consider non-optimal. Okay. So it wouldn't just be the Orthodox Church, Roman Catholic Church, and even Protestants, as long as the worship is more than one time per week, right? their marriage rates significantly go down. If you get married as a virgin, you almost never get a divorce because your sample size is super low.
So are you saying they should
Mhm.
find a virgin, or do you think that's realistic nowadays to find a virgin woman?
Yeah. No. I'm giving you a step-by-step prescription
know,
of
but
all the things you can do to mitigate risk.
Right. No, but I'm not saying mitigate risk. I'm saying, do they download a dating app? Are they going to go on Instagram?
I'm sorry, Andrew doesn't do pickup coach courses. Like, what?
How are they going to do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
go to
if you
church.
look, yeah. So I'll walk through it, right?
Okay.
But what we're talking about is risk mitigation. So let's start with risk mitigation. Your chances.
But I want the dating process from beginning to end.
Oh, okay. We'll give.
Oh my God. From a dude who hasn't dated in 17 years because he's happily married with several children. Pearl. She's just being obtuse on purpose now.
Go ahead.
What? You want me to give a dating process from beginning to end for every individual man on planet Earth?
Well, okay, if a guy wants to go on your prescription.
No, the dating process is going to be very
How is he going to source women?
On region. It's going to be varied on man. It's going to be varied on what options are available. But what you can look at is all the signs of the universals which mitigate risk. What you're asking is for an absurdity. It's like me asking, tell me step by step, how do I become a successful podcaster?
Oh,
every man, every woman on Earth, how do you become a successful podcaster?
I could do that pretty easily.
Do it.
I could do no, but I asked you first, and you don't have an answer.
You say unbelievably ridiculous things on Twitter and in YouTube shorts and TikTok shorts until a handful of them go viral, and then you use the money you get from those viral clips to buy that specific microphone, and then you call it a day.
Because don't have
it's an impossible question.
No, it's actually pragmatic. Because if you have a real,
it's not even pragmatic.
If you have a real plan for men, you have to have a step by step. Like, what's step one?
Yeah. So step one would be looking at the mitigation for risk. That would be step one.
But you have to get a girl on a date first before you even get there.
No, you don't have to get a girl on a date to mitigate risk, bro.
Okay. Well, I guess there's no risk if you never get on the date.
Yeah, that's right. So the thing is.
Yeah, you should be handling most of these things during the talking stage, boys. Now, if you meet a woman even if you meet a woman in person, you're going to, talk to her for a minute, suss things out. Maybe you get her number. You're going to text and communicate in some way before you go on a date. Like, most of these things can be sussed out before the first date. You won't know really about like the chemistry and like that base level attraction and conversationality and those things until you're on the date. But broader prescriptions on life, general ethical principles, things like that, if your sort of the structure of your lives is actually compatible or not, you can figure out all this stuff before you go on the first date. Pearl's crazy.
If you're talking about
so walk away. If
we're talking about mitigation,
where is he sourcing the women from? Instagram.
You're asking for stuff. Stop cutting me off.
So, I need you.
If you're asking a question, you gotta let me answer the fucking question. But you're not answering
the question.
What's the question? But then you have to not talk while I answer it.
Okay, I'll try. I'm a woman, so it's kind of tough.
Okay, go ahead.
I think she's a plant. She's got to be a plant. Like, she must just exist to make women look bad. That's got to be, she must.
Step-by-step process. How does he get a girl on a date? Where should he meet them?
Get a girl on a date. You would go online. You'd have conversations with women everywhere that you went. The various things that we've always done to get women on dates.
Okay, so you go on the dating apps and get women on dates.
No, I didn't say that. What did I say? Repeat back what I said.
You said go online. I assumed you went dating apps and talk to women. And talk to women. Totally fine.
Yes. Are you ever going to get a woman? Are you ever going to get a woman on a date, Pearl, if you don't talk to any of them?
Okay, so you talk to women and...
Are you ever going to get a woman on a date if you don't talk to them?
Okay, so I want to keep going through the process.
No.
I want to keep going through the process. So you meet them on a dating app, or you meet them I
didn't say meet them on a dating app.
Okay, then can you tell me where?
Yeah,
This is such a pointless sidebar. Holy, is this really what they're going to talk? I wonder how long they
I
talk
would.
about this.
All you have
'Cause
to do to begin the initial process of dating women is use whatever connections, resources you have to start connecting with various women. You can use dating apps, sure. That seems to be one of the most common ways that you do it.
Okay.
But you can also use friends of friends. You can use
Okay.
your family members. You can use all sorts of different ways to connect with women the same way that men and women have been connecting forever.
Sure.
Except now
Sure.
you have also the online component.
Sure, totally fine. So then what's next? Do you take her on a date?
yeah, boys, for the most part, avoid the dating apps. Just go to the park, go to a concert. If you go to church, go to church. If you don't go to church, grocery store, library, talk to a woman in real life. If they don't want to talk to you, it's fine. Go talk to the next one. Keep your expectations reasonable. Try to have some female friends so that you generally know how to speak to a woman without coming off like a total lunatic, and you'll be fine. All right? It's not that big of a deal. We're all so terminally online that we think every woman is going to try to catch a case on us because we said hello to them at the grocery. It's just not true. Okay? Women aren't out to make you feel like crap for talking to them in public. If they say I'm taken or I'm not interested, you say, "Oh, thank you. No problem." Walk away. Try again. It's not a big deal. All right? Not a big deal. Just go outside, talk to a woman.
Is that
You
what
can take her on a date, but
traditionally-
usually the second step would be to be in the talking phase. And inside the talking
Okay,
phase,
yeah.
you're able to actually identify many of these risk mitigating factors, which become immediately apparent in 90% of the conversations.
Sure.
They become very apparent, the red flags or the risk mitigation. I wouldn't take a woman on a date. I would be in the talking phase with multiple women for an elongated period of time
Okay.
before I ever took one out on a date.
Okay, fine. So how long should they talk before they get to the date?
Well, it's going to vary from person to person.
Okay, but what would you suggest?
I would suggest that you talk to them until you feel like you've gathered enough information and intel on the mitigation of these red flags, and then I
Sure.
would take them. Sure, you could take them on a date then.
Okay, and what information are you trying to get from them? Like,
Well,
what are the
that's
red
great.
flags? Go
Glad
ahead,
that you
go ahead.
asked that
Go ahead.
question for risk mitigation.
Sure.
I'd be looking for things like, were you raised by a single mom? Right? What are your goals? What are the structure in life that you're after? Whether or not it is the case that you have a present father in your life. How many tattoos do you have? That would be another good one. Your promiscuity level. I do a little intel maybe around their Facebook, things like this. See how many male
Sure.
friends they have. There's tons and tons.
Okay,
The same
fine.
things
So-
that women do.
Yeah, totally fine. So now you get her on the date. Are you trying to sleep with her? Are you
No.
waiting till you're suggesting they wait till marriage? Is that what you're
Well, yeah, only if they want the best outcomes, yeah,
Okay.
and they don't want to create
So-
single moms that they have
okay.
to take care of their
Sure,
children. Yeah,
sure.
that seems
So
like a good idea.
if she's not a virgin, are you telling them they should still wait till marriage?
Yeah, I still would, yeah.
Okay, so
If you're interested in a woman who's not a virgin, right?
well, that's
my
that's
assumption is the
90
man's not
90
going to be a virgin either.
95%, right?
Yeah, and most of the men aren't
Okay.
going to be virgins or taking those women out either.
Okay.
That's the case, yes,
Okay,
factually.
so
That is the dating market
So you
now.
want men to pay a higher price for what other men got for free.
Oh, so okay, well, let's just grant this. Let's say they don't, right? You want men to sleep with a woman on the first date?
Can you answer my question? And I'll answer
did.
yours.
Okay,
So
so the answer's
yes.
in the answer. I'll explain it.
No.
So
do you
the
want
thing
men
is,
to
it's
pay a
like,
higher? You don't like the answer
you
to the
don't
question.
you don't have to sleep with this woman to get to know her. If you think that she's worth the risk and you think that she's worth it to stick around to sleep with later or to date long term, sure. The problem that you have here is
So
that
what if-
we
what if-
operate no, my turn. We operate off of your logic, right? If a woman has ever slept with a man ever, should no man ever wait to sleep with that woman?
I think
or
that's
should it be
that's a tough
immediate?
sell.
What's
You
that?
can sell that. It's a tough sell.
So then you think that the woman, if you've ever had sex as a woman, you should just give it up?
Okay, so you want guys to
Like,
marry,
answer the question. Answer the
I
question.
will answer that question.
No, you're not answering the
I will
question. You're
answer.
avoiding
I
it.
will answer that question.
If a woman's
But
ever
if-
had sex, every man she dates, should she fuck him?
I will. No, I don't think
No.
so.
No. You are allowed to change how you move through the world. People may still take your previous modes of engagement into account, and that's perfectly reasonable, but you sleeping with one person does not make you obligated to sleep with anyone else. That's absurd. This is something Brian tries to talk about on the whatever podcast, and it's super weird and cringy.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't
then
think
you're saying that
she
she should make a
Andrew should give more of this pushback when he's on the whatever podcast listening to Brian put forth this absurd kind of expectation.
wait.
I think there's certain men you can treat special though, and I think most men want to be treated special and not like other men.
So is every man you've ever gone on a date with, have you slept with him immediately?
No. How about you? How about you?
No, I don't sleep with any men.
No. I mean, what was your dating experience like? Did you wait? I mean, if you want to go person, yeah.
Of course. I like to get to know people, things like this, of course.
Sure.
But the thing is like, that's my point.
I mean,
my point is,
I don't want to go personal, but if you're good, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not trying to be personal. I'm trying to demonstrate a point. Of course, you don't sleep with every man immediately. That would be absurd.
Right.
That's not a personal attack.
Right,
it's just an objective
but women
fact.
do sleep with men faster that they like.
Generally speaking, I think the same thing with men. They generally will try to sleep with
would
women faster if they like
How would
them.
a guy know the difference between a girl that's using him for resources, or like just trying to use him for the lifelong provisioning, or that actually likes him?
Well, every woman's going to.
Well, you date them for a period of time and you suss those things out, and you can never really know because people change later on in life. Sometimes you never know 100%, but you do your best to do a little investigative work at the beginning of the relationship. I don't know. This isn't easy.
Going to be utilizing men to some degree for resources, and historically always has. The idea, though, that you can't mitigate these risks by taking a look at the entirety of their social media, doing a little social stalking, which is you're just looking around at their connections and things like this in order to see what the general trend is. You can basically determine this fairly quickly. In fact, men have become so savvy to this in the dating market, they're beginning the high rates of rejection now, where they're like, nope,
so there's
nope,
no
nope.
women, there's no women that at all could mitigate any of this. I mean, the biggest hoes that I knew in school had pretty much no digital footprint, no social media, none.
Well, that is crazy. There's no way. She's just saying that like it's a fact. There's no way that's true at all. There's no chance that is true. That's crazy. That has to be crazy. I'm going crazy.
Well, I mean, that's
it's like a strategy actually, because they want to get they want to get around. And
well, it's really difficult now. Well, then even if that was the case,
like a small private,
I would just put that as another red flag. Oh, you have no social media presence? Nah, maybe that's another red flag.
But wouldn't you say that women are developing new strategies every year to get around some of totally? But don't you think that some of the men that you're suggesting this to are going to get got? Just balance the probabilities.
Yeah, but no matter what conditionals we make in society, some men are going to get got. There's nothing you can do about that ever. Doesn't matter if you had the perfect utopia, some men are going to get got.
Okay, so what percent, going through all these strategies, what percent of men do you think will get got?
I think that you could lower the risk. I think you can lower the risk mitigation down to somewhere around 15 to 20%, which is what we see in these types of elongated Christian marriages.
So you think about 20% of men will get got?
I think that all 20% of men have always gotten got, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
But why would a man take that deal?
Because they want to have a family, like they've always wanted to.
Right, but and do you think that if people stay married, that's automatically a successful marriage if they just don't divorce?
No, that wouldn't always meet the criteria for successful marriage.
So
right, but hang on. By the same logic, you would have to agree then that not every time women want to get divorced, it's unjustified.
True, I agree.
So if that's the case, then you have an equal wash there. So the idea here is, what do we want for a stabilized society, which makes sense? right? For men to have
saying,
maximum happiness, it seems to be marriage.
right, but you're switching it back to what's in it for society, and I keep trying to stick to what's in it for the individual
Men are
man.
society.
Right,
Men run
but
society.
do you really think that a 20% failure rate where a woman could potentially really ruin his life for 18?
Men enforce society. Whether or not we run society seems to be kind of in question. So I don't know about that. He is right that marriages do lead to generally more happiness and function in a society. But I don't know, they're making so many like they're jumping all over the place now.
Like, I mean, I've talked to like a good percentage.
Well,
of,
what failure
of
rate's
men,
acceptable?
what
1%?
I think one is too many. When you have a quarter of when you have a quarter of men raising kids that aren't theirs,
That's just utopian.
I think one time that happens is too many.
That's utopian. That's literally utopian thinking.
Well,
so if there's ever a case that a man can get got, then you would just recommend it. It's so silly. That's utopianism. That's impossible. It's like saying
just get paternity tests at birth, guys. And it's not even just to check and see if the woman's cheating on you. Hospitals make mistakes. They switch babies around. It happens. You should just get genetic testing done regardless all the time. Okay? There's lots of great reasons for it. Just it's not that expensive compared to all the other costs of having a kid. Just do it.
No men should ever drive cars because they might get in a wreck. It's like it's gonna happen.
I wouldn't say
that is literally what you're saying, Pearl. That's literally what you're saying, is that if there's a 1% chance, or not even a 1% chance, she was saying if it happens to even one man, so like a 0.0001% chance of anything bad happening to you at all because you did a certain thing, you should not do that thing. That's what you're saying.
The same, because I would say a car wreck, it is not likely that you're going to be enslaved to that car for 18 years. And I think maybe
I
just have a different point of view, because I've seen men on the brink of suicide, Andrew, and I've seen men I've told you this story before. One of the worst divorce stories.
Oh my God, nobody cares about your anecdotes. She always has anecdotes, but she doesn't realize that like the sample size of people that are willing to talk to her is not representative of the general public at all.
Stories I ever saw was a guy that took pretty much your advice. Okay.
Which was what? What's my advice?
Well, let's hear it again.
What you say? He waited till marriage. He met a girl in a Latin Catholic mass church.
Yeah.
He had the temperament. He thought she was the right person. And it was actually really difficult. She took his kid. She was actually Eastern European, so she was Eastern Europe. So she was actually raised to be a wife, and she came to the U.S. He met her in California. Yeah. And she stole the kid and took him back. She won custody. She took him back, and he spent $300,000 trying to get her back.
I'm sorry, she stole the kid or she won custody? Those are completely different things, Pearl.
He went into a war zone trying to get his kid.
Yeah.
Now the kid is like 6. He hasn't seen him in years. The kid doesn't recognize him, and he speaks Russian. How is he happy?
But I know,
and it's easy. I think it's easy maybe for you to like wave it away and just say, "Well,
I'm not waving it away. That's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Men, it doesn't matter. Like, don't even think about that risk." But what I've seen.
Think about that risk.
Right, but you're saying, but do it anyway, and I'm saying I can't tell you what to do, because that is an astronomical risk that I understand if you as a man don't want to take that. I completely understand. Another issue.
So here's the alternative.
Can you let me finish? So another issue too is like the waiting till marriage. I mean, you go on monologues too a lot too.
Not long, because you cut in every 5 seconds.
The other thing is 1 out of 3 women have STDs. So you could
of sex work.
No, not necessarily.
We can look at the height of the
It's not all because of sex work. I don't know where they're getting this from. Part of the 1 in 3 is because of sex work. A lot of it is because they get them from men because. So, little fun fact about most STDs, it's a lot easier for women to get them than for men to get them. Just based on our physiognometry, I guess. And so men will spread them a lot easier because we don't know that we have them. Which is why you should get tested after and before every new partner.
Promiscuity, the sexual revolution wasn't even close. Wasn't even close.
Yeah, but a lot of normal women have STDs too. They do.
Yeah, and they always have.
It's true.
So do men. They usually get it from men during promiscuous sex as well.
Right, but that's back to the what about the men, though? We're talking about
It's not
women.
What about the men. I'm just giving an accounting for this.
What do you mean, what about the men? It's not what? That's not a what about the men. We're talking about the woman now. First of all, you've been talking about men the whole time. What do men get out of it? What about the men? What do men get out? And Andrew brings up the men once, and you're, well, it's not what about, now you're doing what about the men. This woman is out of her mind.
For how this works. STDs would be a good idea for not having promiscuous sex. But if the idea is like, because some men are going to have catastrophic results and we can never mitigate that. I don't care what society you're in, ever. You're not going to be able to mitigate that some men are going to have catastrophic results. That instead they should use women, basically, and women them for purely sexual hedonistic needs. If that's the case, then the very ideology of like, look at all these STDs, that explodes under that same ideology. That's like silly. It's counterproductive.
Well, under your strategy, they could marry a woman with herpes. Like,
yeah, under your strategy,
under any, first of all, a very, very substantial portion of the population has herpes because it's extremely easy to catch and it's extremely easy to go under the radar. You can have herpes forever without having like an outbreak or anything like that, especially if you're a man. You're much less likely to have like an outward display of it. But that could happen under any strategy. What do you even mean? What do you mean?
They're going to get herpes anyway.
Not really, because if you wear a condom, it's less than 1% of men that
then why are they exploding?
They're exploding because men and women aren't wearing condoms. But if you wear a condom, it's not the likelihood of you getting something, especially as a guy, is pretty low.
So men are just stupid, don't know how to wear condoms, or?
I mean, some men, they really should.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think that,
to be honest, I mean, a lot of guys, they don't.
What's happened is promiscuity, especially in the sex industry, where STDs are 10 times higher, has now been gravitating towards women's bedrooms on OnlyFans and things like this. They have a continuous chain of men who come in they're promiscuous with, and this has exploded the STD rate. And by the way, I can prove this because in every Western nation where sex work can be done from the home, you see these explosive rates generally in the areas where there's the most amount of sex workers, it gravitates out.
You think it's all sex work? It's not the women in college?
No, there's always been STDs, of course, that have been in the general public. I'm not talking about the accounting for the explosion in them.
Right, but you don't think it's common on, say, college campuses for STDs to go around?
Of course, but that's always been the case on college campuses.
Right. But saying that's always, I'm trying to operate in today, not the past, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to give you a prism so that, because you're acting like this stuff is new, or that that risk mitigation is somehow new. This has always been the case that men had to mitigate risk when it came to marriage. You're only talking about.
Everyone has to mitigate risk when it comes to marriage. Oh my God.
Out the selection of, well, you could get really fucked by the courts, which is true, and that the courts are biased towards women, which is true. I'm giving prescriptors for how we begin the process of changing those things. Whereas what you do is you act as though these are brand new societal issues when they're actually not brand new societal issues.
No, I operate in today, so I try to focus on what's going on now. And
yeah, but can't you look to the past for prescriptors?
Right, but why not if the past, not if it doesn't matter?
It matters.
Okay,
Or
well,
we can't get prescriptors. We can't get prescriptors of the
Mhm.
future unless we look at societies which worked.
right, but societies that don't exist today, that are
What is
different
she
than
talking
today. I have to
So,
operate in the, I
yeah,
have to operate, I'm not a lawmaker, so I
yeah.
have to operate in the society we have today.
Yeah, you're not a lawmaker, you're an influencer. So you'd influence
I'm,
people into lawmaking, or influence people towards laws, or you'd
yeah,
influence them
I
towards
think
better behaviors, or
I
things
think
like this, right?
influencers that think they have that kind of sway and power are just as delusional as the women that think that they're going to get a man that makes like $5 million a year. That's my
Yeah,
belief.
yeah. So,
You may
well,
think
here's
you may think different. That's just what I think. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. So, well, I mean, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party seem to disagree. As they're buying up influencers left and right all over the country, and it seems to be swaying a lot of localized elections. So, I think influencers must have some kind of, I don't know, influence, right? Otherwise, why is it that the political arms of the various parties are doing everything they can to get them under their wig? So, ultimately, I think when we're talking about
Pearl just, her eyes just glazed over because neither of the political parties called her to get her under their wing because nobody likes her.
your kind of descriptive world, again, I don't even disagree with a lot of these descriptions, but if we apply Pearl Davis's descriptions, which do sound
Descriptions.
more prescriptive, why should men do X, right?
Well,
It's like, okay, well, here's why. And then you say, but here's the risk for that. Okay, I agree there's the risk for that. Well, now what? I don't know. Is that it? Just like, I don't know?
if a product is good, then people are lining up to buy it. And so what you're doing is you're saying, no, no, there's no risk. Men are lining up
He hasn't said that once. He's been saying the opposite of that the entire time.
to buy this, but the stats just don't say that. They don't. So
Yeah.
if you're right, then
Well,
if you're
first of all, I
right, if you're
reject
right,
your
if you're right,
scripts.
if you're
I'm-
right, then
yeah.
the marriage rate will go up,
Yeah.
and traditionalism will return. I hope you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but don't you understand that the positive of your framing is completely rejected by me? I'm not one of these guys who's making these crazy advocations for, hey, bro, just take the plunge, bro, and hopefully things will work out, bro. That's the Con Inc. guys who are saying, oh, this is all men's fault, this and that. I'm talking about prescriptive mitigations to try to fix the issues in marriage, the very thing men are screaming that they want more than anything. And you just say, well, kind of just do what you want. Here's the information. Good luck. It's like, okay, you can do that. But then at what account can you ever criticize any of those guys in the Con Inc. party who give prescriptions? How can you ever do that if you don't give a counter prescription?
Well, if their prescriptions are leading men to their death and men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide because they don't warn them, I can criticize them.
Then what
I
should they
think
do instead,
all
Pearl?
I'm saying,
Then
all
what
I'm
should they
saying-
do instead, Pearl?
I think they should make an informed decision because
same
I just
thing
think
I think.
I think they should
Okay.
make an informed decision. Why is a man immoral if he doesn't choose to get married? Do you
So
think
that's not immoral.
Okay, so then why are you arguing? with
Who
me?
said that?
Yeah, well, the argument here is about men's happiness and what they get, right? Not about whether or not it's moral if they get married or not.
Yeah, he's clearly, and has been since the beginning of this debate, been making a pragmatic argument. This has nothing to do with morality. If we dug a little deeper, he would probably, in a different situation, advocate through the Christian lens, because that's generally what he does. But this is, he knows he's arguing with Pearl. He knows she's going to reject anything that's like that. So he's arguing purely from a statistical, pragmatic, secular standpoint. I mean, this is, oh my God. They're both bad faith. They're both bad faith. They're both bad faith. But she's worse.
I'm not saying it's immoral for men to not get married.
I could be okay. Then what's the disagreement? Then why do you care?
The disagreement is on the prescription of why it is
But
that
I didn't give a prescription.
marriage, well, here's the disagreement. I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm not saying that it's immoral for men to not get married. I am interested in the happiness and longevity of men and their overall wellness, well-being, and health in the society I have to live in, because I count on them to provide the security. I count on them to provide all luxury. I count on them to build all infrastructure. And so if men aren't doing well, none of us are doing well. And so if we're going to associate these problems, and Con Inc. says, well, just take the plunge because society continues to go, and Pearl Davis says men can just do whatever the fuck they want, then it's like, well, then how do you criticize anything prescriptively? How do we get anywhere prescriptively? It makes no sense to me.
Do you think men should do what you want?
I think that if prescriptively you move towards the type of society I advocate for, I think, yes, the wellness of men would do way better.
So men should do what you want and not what they want.
No, they should do prescriptively what's best for men.
Okay.
That's not, now, that is true that I'm aligned with that, but that's not doing what I want. That's doing what's in their best interest.
Okay. So men should listen to you and not not what they want for their life, but what you want for their life.
Well, what did I just say? I just said,
I don't even like, that is the most bad fit. Look, I don't generally agree with Andrew Wilson on 90% of things, but here we are. It's the broken clock strikes again. I mean, that's the worst faith interpretation of anything that it can't even be described how unbelievably ridiculously bad faith that was.
that
according to
what
the
they
stats
want for their life is happiness, and if I want for my life happiness also, and if we have a combined belief on the prescriptive things that would make us happy, then that's what men, including me, should move towards.
So you're saying, I read these stats, I read these studies, now do what I say because I read these studies.
Well, and Pearl Davis is doing the same thing. I read these stats and studies, and everything's really bad for men. So, I mean, if you want to, if you want to take the plunge of 20%, you might get fucked here. And is it really worth it? I'm not sure it's worth it.
I say you're a man. It's your house. You get to do what you want in your house. That's out of order. I'm not going to tell a man what to do.
Well, you're not telling them what to do, but you can still. Isn't it true that you can offer up prescriptions in society which are good for society and good for men without telling men that they need to do those prescriptions? Like, hey, prescriptively, if we did X, that might be really good for men. That doesn't mean you're telling men what to do.
I can give my opinion if
her brain just broke. She literally just said she doesn't give her opinion. She gives predictions.
Somebody asks, but that's not my job.
No one gave you a specific job, and you give your opinion all the time.
I'm here to, did you lower the volume a little bit? I don't know why I can hear him less now. No? Wait, could you talk again?
Testing.
Could you turn up my mic or my headphones just a little bit? Sorry. But then you would say, you wouldn't say you should do it. You would say you could. But once you get into then you're saying this is what you should do.
I would say any prescription
which
is going to be good for the overall health of men, they should be moving towards that, yes.
Right. And so if it was moving towards the overall health of men, it would be an easy sell and men would do it.
And that, well, no, not necessarily. Men have gone along with lots of different things which were an easy sell because they were misled, or they had bad information, or collectively from the society. Like, here's an easy one. Men go off to war. They go off to literal war when they get drafted. And that has been an easy sell, but it definitely was not good for men.
What is this? I think it might be here. Sorry. It's buzzing now a little bit. Okay, sorry. So you're saying that men, well, yeah, but men in reward for protecting the country, they got a family that actually stayed together. But today, that's not the norm.
No, they didn't. In the Vietnam War,
we've never gotten families as a reward for protecting the country. The reward that men get for being eligible for the selective service and being the majority taking part of the United States military is a secure country. That's what we get. It's the same thing as what do men get for building a successful and secure society. They get a successful and secure society to live in. That's what we've always got.
They didn't get that. That's not the case. They got that maybe post World War II. They weren't getting it after Korea. They weren't getting it after Vietnam. They're drafted for both wars. They weren't coming home to a family. They're coming home getting spit on, literally spit on.
All right,
And the thing is like, yes, men can be tricked collectively into doing things that are really bad for men's health. But the idea here that we should not be prescriptively
do you think they
trying.
did it because it was like an adventure? That's probably why, right? Like,
no, they didn't just want to go on an adventure. They did it for honor.
Yeah. I mean, and
honor.
I would say at one point society rewarded them for it. Like now white men are the least likely to be in the military, or it's like the lowest numbers in years. Like men are
Oh my God. What does this have? This has nothing to do with literally anything. We don't need as big of a military anymore.
dropping out of the military because they don't see what's in it for them anymore.
Manpower wise, because our technology allows one soldier to do the work that dozens would be required to do a century ago.
And you know, it's interesting. I think this like
yeah, well, that's because there's no honor.
I think it's an interesting like sell what you're trying to do. Meet the women, wait till marriage for a woman that's not, pay a higher price than a previous guy, and you'll be married for life. I hope men, if you want to,
I mean, that's not. So this is again, this is very.
If you guys want to,
if you guys want to
do that,
Pearl framing.
If you want to,
yeah, she just is completely straw manning what he just said. What he's been saying the entire time. Like that's a total straw man.
That's not actually what I said. I'm offering only an alternative to black pill. And what am I saying?
Okay.
The same thing you are. Men should be gravitating towards things which are good and healthy for men. Men are gravitating towards families because they want them.
But
if they didn't want them, they wouldn't be having them.
Who has more information on what makes a man happy? You or him? Like an individual man watching your stream.
This will be trivially true about any human being on Earth.
So each man has more information to make decisions in his life than you do, right?
Well, no, that's not always the case. But I would say, generally speaking, people tend to think or know what makes them happier than some guy they don't know. Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want to use. Can I use you as an example, but not say your name? Can I use you? Yeah, I can. Okay. So my producer's watching now, right?
Yeah.
He's listened to me talk. Now he's listening to you for the first time, and he's hearing your strategies for marriage, right? Who has more information on how he should make a decision moving forward in his relationships, you or him?
Yeah, so obviously him, but I'll also have more information probably on what's better for his relationships than you, because I'm a man.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
But so who should make the decision? Should he listen to your advice, or should he listen to himself, what he thinks is best?
Well, so I would say that you also have to take into account that there's social responsibilities and honor that men have, duties that they're supposed to gravitate towards. There are actual duties men have to gravitate towards.
This is just like nagging the duty. Okay. Well, what does he get?
You don't think men don't have duties?
What does he? I mean, why would you do something?
Like men should just do nothing, or what?
Right, well, why should they work hard for a society that doesn't reward them? I have no problem.
I think that society should reward men for hard work.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, but it does. It does actually reward men for hard work. It doesn't always reward men for hard work with a family, though. That's not the reward societies have ever given men. Men have to procure their own steak for families. Men have rewarded
military members the last 50 years. Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
She's just all
society has
over the
rewarded
place.
military members over the last 50 years. Yes,
Really?
there's more. During the Iraq War, for instance, there was a lot of honor that came back to the uniform, and then post that, now there's less.
More men have committed suicide than all of the last. More soldiers have committed suicide in the last 50 years than all of the world wars combined.
Yeah.
So society rewarded them?
No, that's not a social societal issue of society trying to punish them. Iraqi war veterans were not getting spit on like Vietnam war veterans. Some of them maybe, but it wasn't the same type of contextual information.
I guess if society isn't spitting on them.
Here's why this happened. This happened because of the tour. So it used to be that soldiers were cycled out after one tour. what happened during the Iraq War and Afghanistan wars, they were going back for 4, 5, 6 tours. They were completely broken. This was something the military has recognized multiple times. Society itself, though, demanded that these wars be stopped. Ultimately, they demanded it. That's why they put Trump in. When you're talking about the social duties and responsibilities of men, it is a fact of the matter they do have them. The idea here, though,
do you think that
this means that society rewards men with a family is
monologue,
crazy.
is it going to end? Is it going to end? Okay. You're doing that to me, so I got to,
Yeah. Fair enough.
So, do you think that men have been respected the last 50 years and honored in society?
No, that's not. I didn't say that.
Okay.
We're talking about the military, a specific example.
Okay. But in general, do men get respect?
No, I think that
in
men have been
society?
completely and totally disrespected as a bygone pieces of garbage.
Right.
The entire idea here is to try to change that.
Right. But
right?
you would
That's the point.
you would understand the rationale for a guy that just says fuck it, right? Because society doesn't reward him.
So here we can maybe come to some agreement. Do I understand the rationale? Yes. Oh yes, I understand the rationale completely. Does that mean that that's good for men though? No.
Okay.
And clearly it does. It clearly can't be because you say it can't be by your own logic.
But you know what's best for an individual.
No. You actually just gave the prescription. It's pretty great. You just said, well, so society is shitting all over men, and that's really bad for men, right, Andrew? Yeah, I want to change that. And you go, but wait a second. So you think you know what's best for men? It's like, well, if we both agree that society shitting on men is bad, then it appears we both think we know what's best for men. That society shouldn't shit on them. They wouldn't like that, right?
Right, but I don't predict it'll stop. I wouldn't predict that it would change.
Well, I can predict it'll never stop if we don't try to do anything about it.
Well,
I can make a 100% prediction it'll never stop if we don't try to do anything about it.
Then run for office, right? Go ahead.
Well, you don't just need to run for office. What you need to do is...
Yeah, you can't politically prescribe these type of changes anyway.
Is influence people who are in office. That's the main thing. People forget. See, NGOs and it's the lobbyists who ultimately are going to be able to make these influences for change.
All right, in the next year, what changes can I expect policy-wise?
Probably not much.
That'll affect. Okay, so my producer has to make a decision in the next year. What's he going to do?
Yeah, so
he has to make. Should he look at the history? Yeah. Should he look at what might happen in the future?
Yeah, so if your producer's going to make a decision on marriage in the next year, I'd give him the same advice any rational human being would ever have. Great. You want to get married? Make sure all of your risks are as mitigated as you can possibly make them so that you can move towards family like men have always historically done and are now getting much better at. And then on top of that, Mr. Producer, you can expect within the next few years that you're going to start seeing even more changes in the marriage court. And here's my proof. The number of kids living with their fathers has quadrupled from 68 to 2020 due to men's rights advocacy groups. That seems to be good for men. They can get access to their kids. Quadrupled, Pearl.
What do you think's going to affect my producer or someone?
She literally at the beginning of this went on a whole freaking monologue, diatribe, whatever you want to call it, about how courts are giving women all the children. And when Andrew presents the statistic that shows that that's been heavily swinging in the opposite direction to a much more even and fair place, she just ignores it like he didn't say anything. Look, Andrew can be bad faith. He can. I've seen him be really bad faith. I don't think I've ever seen someone of this level be this intentionally obtuse. I don't even think she's being bad faith. I think she's just dumb or a plant. She can't be being this bad faith. Like, she's got to just be dumb or a plant. Like, this is insanity. She's just totally skipping over the statistical counter to her argument. We're just going to skip it. Just going to skip-a-redo right on past that.
Someone similar to him more. Do you think you saying like these stats, or do you think what he's seen in real life is going to affect his decision making and what he thinks more?
people generally, I think, intuitively go off of experience first, and then they mitigate, but they often mitigate experience when they start looking for answers for why things they've experienced have sucked. So like, bad thing happens, and I hate it, and so intuitively I don't want anything to do with this again. But then you start looking for answers for why bad thing happened.
You listing stats and shaming men is not going
No, I'm
to
doing it.
make
You're
Shaming men. Holy. Okay.
is not
men.
is not I'm not is
Yeah, that's a shaming tactic. I'm telling you.
And is not going to make men want to get married, and it's not going to make them not believe what they have seen.
How is it shaming men to tell men I care a lot about men's health more than anything else and would really like to see influencers start moving towards prescriptions so that they live happier lives? How in the fucking world could you ever say in a million years that that's a shaming tactic?
Okay, sure, you're not. Sure.
I mean, how? Like, how do you make that step? Now, I would say, on the other hand,
you're shaming men for you shame men for sleeping around.
It's impossible, guys. You're way too fucking stupid to understand the system.
You shame men.
You shame women for sleeping around. For
not living the way that you want them to live.
No,
I'm not
shaming. I'm not telling men they have to live how I want to live.
You call them degenerates. You call them degenerates.
Well, yeah, if they're gays, they're degenerate, aren't they, Pearl?
Okay, well, no.
Yeah. Jesus. And here we go. Andrew's nice guy. I want men to be healthy masks starting to slip a little bit here.
Degenerates if they sleep around.
Yeah, if they're highly promiscuous, I consider that to be degeneracy.
Okay,
but I still, even for those degenerate men, want the best for health and resources for those men
so
too.
What about men that just want to live with a woman for 10 years and have sex first? Are they
terrible idea? Horrible idea by every single metric. Yeah, totally. Totally degenerate, and it's a terrible idea.
Sure. But a better idea is to wait till marriage and give a woman the ultimate honor that you could ever give a woman. And she
in the comparison of those two situations,
she doesn't even have to have sex with you to get it.
They don't have to have sex with you if you live with them either. What's your point?
Well,
like, they don't have to have sex in that situation either. And when you're looking at the fact that living with a woman long term without marrying her, you end up anyway with these ideas of like common law marriage. You can still get taken in the ringer on that. The other alternative there is that the children are generally going to have terrible outcomes. Between those two choices, absolutely, I would prescribe that marriage is better than those. Even bad marriage would be better than those.
Okay, yeah. So, again, that's a tough sell. I mean, maybe the men in the audience will buy it, right?
No, I think that mine was the good sell.
We're going to pause for just a minute and check out some of the comments on this video and see if the men in the audience bought it or not. Pearl, men have been treated like garbage for the longest time. Also, Pearl, I don't care about history. Yeah, we've seen that. Andrew tried to be as nice as he could. Props to his practice of patience. He was extremely patient. Normally, he would be, if someone else interrupted him this much, he would be screaming at them right now. Pearl is not a debater. She's an arguer. True. 30 minutes in, and Pearl's bad faith was exposed. It did not take 30 minutes. At least Erudite gives a hilarious show by performing mental gymnastics. Erudite is one of the best liberal debaters that exist. So that's just absolutely absurd. Pearl just refuses to answer questions because she doesn't care. She has said that a few times. If she don't care, why even? Yeah, exactly. If you don't care, if you don't make prescriptions, if you don't, then why are you here? He who refuses to consider history is doomed to repeat it. Yeah, okay. Pearl claims to make no prescriptions, but is obviously making prescriptions veiled under it's what men want. Yeah, she's literally making prescriptions, but just saying that she's not making prescriptions. Pearl, I love you. Sus. But let Andrew speak. My life could have been much better if I had a friend like him. Also sus. But generally speaking, this part in the middle, let Andrew speak. Yeah, for Christ's sake. I don't know why. I'm not even Christian, but I just grew up with a Christian family, so I say things like Jesus Christ and for Christ's sake. I almost forgot why I stopped watching Pearl. Thank you, Andrew, for bringing me here and reminding me. Yep. Annoying that she kept interrupting him. Yep. Pearl really messed this up. Like a gal who tries to fight rather than dance, she makes it a struggle rather than loose art. Okay, Mr. Poet. Pearl was going way over the top. She wasn't listening mostly. Yeah, you can tell when she's not listening because she does that like glazed over expression. Like her brain is no longer occupying her skull. It's like somewhere else in the room. And she's sort of lost track of it. A family is the only thing that matters in this life, period. The sooner you learn that, the more fulfilling life becomes. I think family is definitely up there in the most important things in life. Later, Pearl, this was tragic. You never even listened to any of his arguments. Instead, conflated, obfuscated, and ignored all reason. Yep. Pearl's arguments sounded like a Klaus Schwab book. We'll watch a debate about Klaus Schwab one of these days. I've already seen it, but it's a good one. Pearl, why did you even welcome this conversation? You want to describe and be negative. That's it. It's pointless. Andrew tries to counter, you cut him off constantly. What's the situation? Oh, this is so long, but we pretty much get it. Pearl sounds like a broken record. She keeps saying no one answers the question while actually receiving an answer. This woman is exactly what she rails against: argumentative, obnoxious, dismissive, doesn't listen, talks over others. It carries on. I mean, they're all just torching Pearl. And this is her channel. This is her, I assume, predominantly her fans on her channel. And they're just flaming her. Pearl skipped right past Red Pill, breezed through Black Pill, and is settled at nihilism. Yeah, literally. She sounds low-key jealous. She always sounds jealous. Always. Andrew, thanks for showing us Pearl's bullshit. Yeah, I'm rude and belligerent. I'm not actually listening. Insufferable. She was not ready for this today. I'm 53 and I have 5 children. Family is everything to me. Pearl wants no risk in order to make a family. Insane. Exactly. 0% risk, or Pearl won't tell men that they should aim for family structures in life. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And that's off the heels of her saying, we'll see in the comments, we'll see, you know, if the audience, if they agree with you or they agree with me. Well, you know, it looks like they agree with Andrew.
So I think the shaming tactic comes from the idea of you saying,
But you're
because
the
this
one
is how
calling.
I hear it. What I hear is men are so fucking stupid they can't mitigate their own risk. So just check out, guys. You're too fucking dumb. And
No,
I think the opposite. I think men are super fucking smart, and we can definitely do something inside of the societal social field to change the conditionals for men.
Who has more legal power, men or women?
In which context? At the mercy of the system or at the mercy of changing the system?
All right. Who do politicians cater to, men or women?
They generally cater toward women and children's needs first. Yes.
Who does the legal system?
Which I'm okay with. That's fine. They should. That makes sense to me.
Cater to, men or women?
Generally speaking, it's going to cater to the weaker sex and children. Yes.
Okay. Who does the media cater to, men or women?
Yeah, same. I can just answer yes to all the institutions doing this.
Okay. So if an individual man is going to outsmart this billion-dollar system.
So they're too dumb to do it?
I would say they don't have power. I wouldn't say dumb, but I don't think
But don't men collectively have powers to overthrow entire systems via force doctrine?
Okay, but I mean, when you're talking in the abstract, that's like easy.
No,
right?
I'm talking in the instruct.
I want to go specific. So my producer, he's listening, right? So he's gonna make a decision in the next 5 years about what he wants to do with his life, right?
Yeah.
And so he's listening. Now, what power does he have if a woman...
YouTube ads is made for your business.
There's
Bring your
barely
brand
been
to
any
life
ads
with
on this
targeted
video.
throws an abuse claim at him? What can he really do?
Yeah, so he can do the same thing that that men have always done during any sort of claim for abuse. He can mitigate risk. You can do this via security cameras. You can do this via the Pence rule. You can do this via all sorts of various rules that men have instituted to protect themselves from false allegations of abuse. If you're talking about inside of long-term relationships, that's really hard for women to prove. Really hard for women to prove. Even marital rape is hard for women to prove. Those are not the things which men are getting tossed into jail for. They're getting tossed into jail, getting their lives ruined for false allegations, generally from strangers, not from women they're with long term.
That's just simply not true, because
Really?
abuse allegations are brought up all the time in family court, because it's based on a
true?
preponderance. It's not, you don't need evidence, so they can just say things. I mean, I worked on one case where she threw a rape allegation from the first night they met, and then 10 years later, she said that he raped her. Court
It
took
is
it.
the case that
she won custody.
Listen,
So
it is the case inside a family court that women will make up all sorts of shit for the custody of children. Nobody's disputing that. What I'm talking about specifically is the charges of abuse, which generally happen. So in family court, what happens is most women are filing for divorce, not under an abuse claim, but under irreconcilable differences. And the amount of them who are reporting abuse in the relationships actually is not nearly as high as you're presenting. The amount of men who are high status who get their lives completely fucking destroyed by false allegations from strange women is extremely high, though, usually in the workplace, if they're in any way connected in the work.
Yeah, it's not the wives. It's like random women that want to like butt in. And again, this is only like the highest status and financial status men on earth. This just does not apply to the general population and at all. None of this that they're talking about applies to the general population at all.
Workplace. Or if it is the case that they're a high status man who goes on a date with a woman, that's when you start to see those accusations completely level men. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the family court.
It does happen. It does happen in family court, correct?
Yeah.
So women can throw and what can he do if he gets a very feminist judge?
Yeah,
So
he's going to get fucked. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so do you think he makes him stupid if he gets fucked? Like he's automatically stupid?
I think that but what's the prescription? The prescription would be to begin the process of changing family courts so that you don't have the feminist judges that still operate under the under the old rules of immediately goes to
tick. My producer, he's got to make a decision this year. He's got to. What's he gonna do? He's gonna do now is should he bet that Andrew Wilson's gonna fix the laws for him?
Should he stay alone for the rest of his life? Because if he ever gets married, the woman's for sure gonna give him an abuse claim and throw him in prison.
I didn't say that.
Is that going to be good for his happiness?
I didn't say that.
I mean, that sounds like a terrible prescription. Yeah, if you listen to me,
I didn't say that. But you see the way.
So let's compare it. Let's compare it.
The thing is,
Andrew Wilson, mitigate all risk possible.
Okay, so
and then Pearl Davis, good luck, you're fucked.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
that's the distinction.
But you
right?
see what you're doing is you're making it seem like men have two options, which is sleep around or be married, right? That's kind of I don't know if that's what you mean, but that's what you're making it seem like.
No.
But there's a lot of people that are in like 2-year relationships with a woman.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that date casually, right? They just go on dates. They might sleep with one or two, maybe more than that, women. And
well,
then
that sounds like casual sex to me.
Right, but then they pick their favorite and they get into a relationship and then eventually get married. I mean, I'm sure, and I'm not trying to go personal, but I'm sure most people dated before like they met their previous like partners, their wife, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
And so it's not really one or the other, right? It's not like degenerates and not. So when does someone become a degenerate? Like when does that line, like when are they beyond the point of return?
Yeah,
body count?
so when you hit this idea of like
is it
the
like
fallacious
any sex
fallacious
outside of marriage?
Yeah. When you hit a fallacious threshold fallacy, like when does a thing become the thing, right? We know that there's degenerates. Can I give you the exact number of dicks a guy has to suck before he's... Well, that would be just one, I guess. Do I have to give you the exact number of chicks a dude fucks before he's considered societally a degenerate? I don't think I need to. I think that's pretty intuitive. We know what degeneracy looks like. You don't think so?
I mean, I know.
Okay, so
I
a
don't want to
guy.
say.
Okay, so here,
Okay.
I'll just pose it to you if you don't think so.
I mean, there's a lot of guys.
A guy is in a
okay.
gangbang. He's in a gangbang, right? With it's him and 3 of his friends, and they're all fucking one chick. Is he a degenerate?
Jesus.
I mean, what is he? Is he doing those every week the rest of his
No,
life?
he just
I personally
he just decided to go in and do it, right?
I don't tell men what to do in the bedroom.
He's not asking you to. Oh my God. I mean, this whole entire this conversation is. I was told it was going to be a shit show. It is. It has lived up. It is definitely a shit show.
I think I prefer the don't ask, don't tell. Like, I just don't. You can do what you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I prefer not to have STDs floating out in society because people are getting in gangbangs in their privacy of their home, and the libertarian idea of like we're not going to govern it.
But that doesn't affect you. How does that
yeah,
affect
it affects
you?
me.
How does that affect you?
I live in this society. How does it not affect me?
You don't have an STD, right?
I have children. I have cousins.
Correct.
I have family. I have all sorts of
And that's
people.
actually what I was trying to get at is conservatives want men to save society for their children. And that's the point. You don't ask what's in it for them.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
And that's the point.
Don't you want us to save society for men?
I think people need to make decisions based on the information they have about their own life.
Yeah, so
I am not, I'm going to finish and then you can go.
Go ahead.
I am realistic, and I think it's better to be prepared than be blindly optimistic. So
Andrew has never once claimed blind optimism.
Things I would personally prepare for, your kids are probably going to your kids will probably go to school with women that do OnlyFans. That is probably going to happen.
Yep.
And it's better to prepare and have a plan than
to try to stop it.
I don't think it's effective to stop it.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's effective.
I think it is effective to stop. Not only that, again, the framing is incorrect.
It's
not that conservatives are trying to.
Sorry.
Conservatives are not trying to save. I mean, maybe the TPUSA conservatives are trying to save a society for the sake of their children. But even if that was the case, like, good, that's good. But that aside, no. What I'm trying to do is save men in society. Men. I think men, the patriarchy, is the most necessary component to society's functioning. And so if you want to have...
And now we're slipping into the portion of the debate where I'm not going to be agreeing with anybody. Yeah, that's where we're going with this. We're going to pause for just a moment so I can replenish my cup of tea. All right. Back into the brain rot.
Men who are in a patriarchal role, who are governing society, then you're going to have to prescriptively move men towards that. That's the only
Right.
way to do it.
Can a
So
man?
ultimately, it's like, hang on,
Okay,
hang
go
on,
ahead. Go
my
ahead.
turn now. So ultimately, from your like social bastardization of this whole thing, your framing continuously goes back to, well, conservative men want to save society for their children. Yeah,
Right.
and like
Right.
good.
But what? But what
Good?
does the average man get out of that? And that's the point.
They get a society to live in.
Right. So I just want to know
Do
when
you
these
think that do
changes
you
are
think
going to
that men
happen.
do you think men live in like bubbles in a forest, or do you think that they live in societies which are governed by social relationships?
Okay, so when are these changes going to happen? Like when
Yeah,
can
but
my
answer my question
producer?
first. Do you think that men
I
live in
don't think.
isolated bubbles, or they live in a social dynamic society filled with
Well,
interpersonal
the average.
relationships
Well,
they
the
deal with?
average man doesn't have many friends. He's like 3 or less, I
Yeah,
think.
but they have
So.
friends and they have family members and they still have to engage in society. You have to go buy a fucking cheeseburger, right? They got to go buy a cheeseburger and not get pickles on it because
Right,
the
but
fucker doesn't speak
every
English.
stat shows that men are
Cheeseburger.
actually checking out of society.
I could go for a
So.
cheeseburger.
Yeah, that's bad though,
Mhm.
right? That's not good. Like we want to change that, right?
Right,
That's
but
the whole point.
I would say it's pragmatic.
Need a UGC video for your business? Find me and many other skilled creators on Fiverr. Or
Because they're
Yeah,
realizing there's no.
pragmatism's bad.
Okay, well, I hope isn't a strategy, and what I think you're kind of trying to do is sell hope.
No,
And I think
no,
it's
the
better to.
pragmatic
I think
argument
it's
that you're
so.
making right now is like, guess what? No
Mhm.
men would ever be in pain ever again if they all shot themselves in the head either, would they, Pearl?
I don't
That would
really
be the
think
ultimate form of
I don't
pragmatism.
really think that's the same, but hey, you know.
That no,
I
that's just
don't. I
pragmatism
don't.
taken
So
to its
okay.
logical conclusion.
So
If you
I
want to
said.
stop all
I
suffering
said.
of men, they
Okay.
all go bye-bye. They're all
Okay.
dead. Now there's no more suffering
So
of men. That's
I
just
said.
silly,
I
right?
said, men, look at the facts and make a decision. And you can make a decision for yourself. I'm here to report the facts, and that's the same as shoot yourself. Okay. I mean.
No, that's not. No. You're making a
Totally
conflation.
fine. I mean, hey.
You're all you just
Wait
did
for
was
the
make a
born again
conflation.
virgin, guys. That's
You
totally
said
going to get you.
Nobody made
the
that
best way
prescription.
for. That's what you said
You're just
earlier.
lying now. It's just reframing.
That is what.
Yeah, no
Reframing
one,
and total
Okay.
bullshit. Never
Okay,
said, guys,
okay.
wait for the born again virgin. In
Okay.
fact, I'm the one wrecking those fucking broads. What are you
Okay,
talking about?
okay.
The thing, I've never made
Didn't-
any such prescription. It's always reframing.
Can I edit it here?
Because the
where
thing
you
is,
can
it's
I
like
edit it where I
ultimately-
asked you? Or I'm going to edit it earlier because you
Yeah.
did say that the way you would suggest men dated was to wait till marriage, even if the woman wasn't a virgin. You did say that.
Yeah, has nothing to do with born again virgins.
Mhm.
It's just that's
Okay.
your pragmatism of
Okay.
a social mitigation for bad thing happening. That's
Mhm.
it. It's all a matter of mitigation of risk.
Mhm.
The idea that I said that you need to wait for a born again virgin, fucking absurd. Never said it. The reason you have to reframe
Okay.
this is because
How should I?
I'm
How should I?
advocating
What should
for
I call
men's-
them? Okay.
I'm advocating. Hang on.
All right.
I'm advocating
Wait for a woman that
men's-
gave it to other
I'm
men
advocating
for free.
for men's happiness, men's rights,
Okay.
men's health.
Mhm.
And the only thing you can think of to do is to consistently
Mhm.
attempt to reframe it
Mhm.
into
Sheesh.
somehow, I'm
Mhm.
telling men to take some plunge with some
Mhm.
fucking skank born again
Mhm.
virgin.
Mhm.
Fuck that.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the mass mitigation
Okay.
of risk and the change to a
All right.
system.
All right, guys. I know she slept with your ex-boyfriend. Okay. Or I know she slept with her ex-boyfriend.
Here comes the straw man
I
that
know.
I would never
I know
prescribe
she.
ever.
Okay. Okay. Should men wait till marriage? You said yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, generally
Okay.
yes.
Even if
They
the
have the best
woman,
outcomes,
even if the
yes.
woman isn't a virgin.
If it is the
Mhm.
case that you want men
Okay.
to do whatever they want,
Okay.
then if man really
don't
likes
do-
the woman,
Don't
if
do
the man
whatever you want. Do
really
it. Do
likes
what Andrew.
him-
Do what Andrew says. Do
yeah,
it. No,
so
no.
if it is the case,
My
that the
producer,
man
he's taking notes now.
really
He's gonna
likes-
follow your plan.
yeah. So if the man really likes the woman,
Okay.
and men should do whatever it is that they want, right? Then
We already looked at the comment section a minute ago, and it's obvious that the people watching this decided unilaterally that they preferred Andrew's prescription over Pearl's, even though this is Pearl's page, which would theoretically have her fans and supporters mostly attached to it. But here we are.
under your feasible system, a man should just fuck a chick because he feels like it, right? It's like that's untenable. One and two, yes, is it okay for a man to hold his own integrity intact
Mhm.
and still be in love with a woman who
Right.
slept with a man before
Right.
and have good outcomes? Yes, of
Yeah.
course it is.
Rare W take, Andrew Wilson. I gotta give him credit where it's due. Like, yeah, you can definitely find a woman that was promiscuous in her past and still have a happy relationship. It's not that deep.
So now you're
course it is.
shaming men for wanting to sleep with women outside of marriage. And that's what I said. You're the one shaming men because you're the one saying that they're degenerates if
God.
they,
No,
even
I'm
though
talking
even
about
though
outcomes.
statistically, even though
Outcomes
like,
for men who
What?
maintain virginity and marry women with low body counts or virgins have really good outcomes.
I am super. You know what? You'd have to show me the study.
I
I am
named it for you
super.
earlier.
I am.
I've definitely heard her cite this all of this exact information in other conversations. She's acting like she just got dropped onto the planet 20 minutes ago, like halfway through this debate that she's been a part of. But no, she just arrived like 10 minutes ago, brand new on planet Earth.
I am super sure that when the woman is not a virgin and the man is, that is a recipe for disaster. I am.
Listen, you're right that the risk
I know
increases.
I'm right. I know I'm right.
But it's still mitigated. It's still but it's still mitigated
right.
by the fact that if they have a lower body count, right,
Okay.
within the threshold of 1 to 3, right,
Mhm.
it does mitigate risk significantly.
Mhm.
Is it always best to have a virgin? Sure, but guess what? Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, that's probably not what you're going to get. You're probably not going to get a virgin who's a man either,
So
but you can still
what
mitigate all kinds of risk.
What
Like,
does
I don't
he
understand.
get?
Why do you think
What
you can't
does he
mitigate
get?
risk?
What does he get? What does he get? He gets.
So one more time, I'll explain.
Plenty of people in Gen Z aren't having sex. It's honestly nowadays for the younger generation, for me to date another 30 to 35-year-old, that I'm not going to find a virgin, but I'm not looking for virgins like a crazy person. But Gen Z guys, there are plenty of virgins out there. Statistically, they're not really having sex as much as we all did, us millennials.
What men get out of this, even though you keep asking the question, I answer it. They get what they've
you
always
have such
gotten.
bad answers. Like,
Oh, okay.
you're
If I
like,
have bad
here's a
answers-
bad deal, guys. You
Yeah.
got a bad deal before.
Yeah,
Here's
no, you're
another
giving them a bad
deal.
deal. Not only that, here, let me
I
ask you this.
say- I
What
say
have men
make-
ever gotten?
Men, you've
Ever,
always
Pearl?
got
Name one thing men have ever gotten.
Men, you've
ever.
always gotten it bad, so you should continue to
Answer
accept
the question,
it bad.
Pearl. Don't dodge, Pearl. What have men ever gotten,
men,
Pearl?
translation, men.
You're not answering. No, notice audience, she's not answering.
Notice
Pearl Davis's
audience, he
she's
won't.
not
Notice
answering.
he's not answering either.
I did answer. I answered 15 times.
Yeah,
now
yeah.
here's my question to
All
you
right.
after I gave you the answer.
Okay.
What have men ever gotten?
Okay, 100 years ago,
Mhm.
average 6 to 8 children. I believe this is off the top of my head.
So you only care about caring about children, not about men.
Wait, I'm not done.
That's caring about children, not about men, Pearl.
He got well,
I don't think the average was ever 8 children. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think the average was 8 children for every man. That's insane. I don't think that was ever the average.
I'll finish.
Okay,
He got a virgin wife who had been with nobody else, who stayed with him for a lifetime.
Wait, I thought that women's behavior was ingrained and that they were always fucking men, according to you, and that the men just didn't know it.
They might have been.
Well,
but
then, I
at
don't know, it
least
sounds like
if women did at the time, it was not as widely known as it is today. If women did, they may not have. I wasn't there. I'm not going to speak.
I know,
something.
but that's what you said last time. You said no, they were still screwing around even then.
Well,
it's just behind the backs and nobody knew.
Well, I mean, there's genealogy records that show that women did step out. Like, there's people that have done like genealogy records, and like a lot of times it was the neighbor or something like that. I'm not going to go back and forth about 100 years ago because
So what did men ever get, Pearl? What did they ever get?
But that doesn't matter. And that's the whole
Yeah,
point.
right.
You keep going back to 100 years ago. I live in the now. I don't care what happened 100 years ago.
Just asked me this question.
I
said,
don't care.
Andrew,
I know,
what
but
did
you
men get?
keep
And
deflecting.
I say this. I say, here's what men get.
But you keep deflecting and bringing up the past.
I'm not
You're like a woman bringing up the past.
I'm just
Who
making
cares?
you answer the same question that I'm asking.
Holy. Bro, who's deflecting? He answered your question. What do men get out of marriage is a family and children and a wife and all that stuff. And yes, sometimes they lose it. Sometimes they give it up willingly. It's none of these are points.
Who cares
You
about
say,
100 years ago?
Andrew,
So-
you're not giving me
so-
any answers. Here's my answer. Give
Okay.
me one, Pearl. What did
Okay.
they get? What did they ever get?
Right. I don't care about 100
Yeah,
years ago.
that's right.
I
You
care
got
about.
nothing. You got nothing.
I care because you're talking
Nothing.
about the past. What do they get today, Andrew? What do
They
they
get
get?
the same thing they've always gotten, which is a family, the thing that seems to make men the most is happy.
Right.
Unless you can name something else that men were getting before that, and I'm all ears. What was it?
Do women stay today? Do women stay today? On average, do women stay today?
At lesser rates than they used to.
Okay.
By for sure they do.
Okay.
But if you're asking what men get, that's a different question.
But they don't. But they don't get it. They don't get it.
Yeah, but a lot of men do
saying-
get it. That's a lie. They do get it.
No, they don't.
A lot of men do. Yeah, I just gave you the stats. And by the way, if you're talking about, again, even when it comes to guardianship, it's quad.
Even if 50% of marriages fail, 50% of them work. And there are things you can do to mitigate that and make your risk of divorce even lower than 50%. So like men still get married and have families for life. A lot of them.
Quadrupled. If you're talking about marriage in a Christian sense, 25%.
Also, something they both seem to be completely forgetting is that the women get that too.
Divorce, low body counts, even less.
Are more people getting married today or less?
Less. I'm
Okay.
glad. Less secularists are getting married. Good. Fuck them.
Okay.
Fuck them. I don't care if they
Okay.
get married or not. Fucking
Right, but
bastards.
this isn't a religious channel, right? You're trying
I'm
to
not
peddle.
saying it's a religious
You're
channel.
trying
I'm
to
just talking
peddle
about
you're
outcomes.
trying to peddle your religion, right? And that's
No, I'm
kind of
trying
what
to
you're.
peddle outcomes. Why do I
Right.
care if secularist men who are hedonistic want to get married or not? It's irrelevant. The
Right.
future belongs to those who reproduce,
Right.
and it's not going to be those who don't get married because they go, well, the thing is that I don't feel like
What?
I'm getting anything that men haven't always gotten for this. And the one thing you could name, same thing I could name, they get children. When I said it, you said, well, Andrew, that's you promoting
who do the kids
promoting good
belong
for
to?
kids.
Who do the kids belong
Stop,
to?
Pearl, my turn.
Who do the kids belong to?
What you do, yeah,
Who
my
do
turn.
the kids
anyway,
belong? You don't like
so
the
it's my
answer.
turn.
Who
It's
do the
my
kids?
turn.
Who do the
yeah,
kids
you won't even let
belong
me
to?
answer. So
who do
so
the
here's-
kids belong to? It's
you're
a
just
one-word
reframing.
answer.
Stop
It's a
reframing. Let me
one-word
finish.
answer.
Let me finish the point.
It's
Let
a
me finish the
one-word
point.
answer. Who do the
Waiting
kids
for-
belong to?
I wasn't
Who do
done
the kids?
talking
Who do the?
before
I
you
don't.
interjected with your
who
dumb
do the kids?
opinion.
Who do the kids belong to?
Yeah, Pearl, one more time.
Can you
So I'm
answer?
gonna-
Can you do
Yeah.
it? Can you do it?
Yeah.
Okay,
It goes
go
to the
ahead.
state. Right now, the children belong to the state. Yeah, that's terrible. That sucks. But what
Okay,
it meant.
so what
by
do
the way,
men get out
the
of it?
children belong to the state
So it's
before
like
they
a
belong to the
spurg.
king.
It's like
They
a
belong to
spurg.
the king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say it's
What
a spur
do-
because you cut me off every 5 seconds.
What? Yeah, because you don't have a good answer. They don't get
Yeah,
anything out of
I
it.
gave you the same answer you gave me,
Right.
which is hilarious.
Right.
By
but,
the way,
but
same answer.
They don't get a family because women divorce.
Pearl, can you answer my question? Don't spur.
What's your question?
Okay.
Can
what
you not
have men
bring up-
ever
can
got?
you not
Men-
bring up
Pearl,
history?
can you answer my question? Don't spur, Pearl. Stop spurging.
Holy
Stop
God.
spurging. I'm just going to answer the question. Let me ask it before you start spurging.
Mm-hmm.
What have men ever gotten, Pearl?
I don't
Ever.
care. I don't care
Yeah.
about history.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
He has to.
Okay.
Men today have to make decisions off of the information today, Andrew. It doesn't matter what they got. It's like, what do they get today?
Yeah, they get what they've always gotten.
Okay. Well, if you want to keep convincing men to wait for born again virgins, totally fine. I hope.
Except I
I'm
never.
sure-
Can you ever tell me where I told any man ever to wait for a born again virgin?
Pro tip, I have watched all of the debate up until now. He did not ever once ever say that.
Okay.
Why do you
want-
keep
want-
making
want-
that shit up? Like why?
Just 'cause-
You
what
don't
do you
even
want-
have
what
to
do you-
straw
what do you-
man-
This is like the 7th or 8th thing she's completely made up that Andrew hasn't said.
Yeah, you don't
what do you
even have
want
to straw
Okay,
man.
you want men to wait for non-virgin women, correct?
No. I never
That's-
said that either. I'm
you
talking
said
about
that
the
twice.
mitigation
You
of
said that
risk.
twice. Mm-hmm. You
Mhm.
said that twice.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You can clip it, right? But I'll counter clip. You won't like what you see because I didn't say that. I'm talking about the mitigation of risk. And when you're talking about the mitigation of risk, it still is actually less risky. Yes.
Right.
Less
So
risky.
I wanna
Does
go
that
back
mean it's
to the-
optimal? No.
so you want men
Do you
to
understand?
find-
Hang on.
okay,
You
you
understand
wanna
the difference
find-
between
okay.
optimal and risk? Do Do you understand, like,
wanna,
risk mitigation versus optimal?
so you want men to find women with below what, a 3 body count? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, just less bodies better.
Okay, so what would you say should be the cap?
I mean, yeah, again, we're talking about risk mitigation.
Okay, sure.
You're asking for something which is a specificity, right?
Okay.
So, how many, for instance, if I ask this question to you, how many women, or should you ever sleep with a woman who's fucked 100 men? Should a man ever do that?
Could you answer the question?
Yeah, but
He did.
it's actually answering by showing you how fallacious the actual question is.
Okay.
So what you're saying is, Andrew, give me a threshold. I'm not here to give you a threshold. I'm here to tell you about the mitigation of risk. The less bodies, the better. Yes. Does that mean, though, that if you have a high body count woman, it can't work out? No.
Okay.
But the risk is way higher.
How would men verify that?
Well, here's the thing. You asked me this last time. It was kind of funny, right? So
You can't really verify it. It's all kind of like vibes, you know? Which is why it's good to date people that you meet in real life. You can kind of suss out, you know, how they move in the world by, you know, striking up friendships with them first. It's all kind of vibes. You never know for sure. Anyone can lie, but any virgin at church can lie to you too. Like, anyone can lie.
They would verify it the same way they've always verified it. They would look at reputation. They would look at past history. They would talk with friends. And you know what's really interesting? I went back and I took a look at this, and it turns out that when men investigate these things and poignantly ask these questions, they actually do get a lot of these answers very quickly. You can actually verify this based on reputation.
Okay, so if a woman had a past in a different city, how would the man know?
Or
she does
especially
something.
With
she does
so
something
it'd be social.
on. She does
social media, families, big mouth sisters, big mouth friends, all the other ways that you would always verify.
But if she
these things.
downloads a dating app, how would the guy know?
Yeah, I know, but you can endlessly reduce this hypothetical to the point where you can just continuously add variables. Like, what if a woman was in a forest and her plane went down? She was on a desert island for 3 days, and the news never broadcast it. Could she have slept with a man then? Yeah. But I'm saying that again, when it comes to risk and mitigation, you can do investigation the same way women do with men, by the way, to find out their body count. And you can, in fact, suss out fairly quickly if they have a high one or not. Does that mean always?
Right.
No.
So you think
you
think most men can figure it out pretty easy, how many people she slept with?
It's
not
about
how many precisely, but whether.
Yeah, exactly. It's not about precisely. It's about kind of getting a general idea about how promiscuous the person is and how long ago in their past that promiscuity may have been and for how long it went on for, and just kind of making an educated guess based on that information. But you also, again, like he mentioned, the risk is a little higher, but you can find someone who was even recently promiscuous that falls in love with you and doesn't want to be promiscuous anymore, and then they aren't anymore. It happens. It's about risk mitigation, and it doesn't just apply to, obviously it doesn't just apply to promiscuity. There are so many other metrics by which you should be doing risk mitigation when you're looking at who you want to be in a relationship with. I personally don't even bother with the whole body count thing. It's pretty easy to tell by conversations with a woman whether or not she's actively promiscuous. And yeah, getting into a situation with someone who's actively promiscuous currently is probably not going to lead you to the best chance of a long-term monogamous arrangement, but you can suss these things out. It's not that hard to figure out. Like, there are lots of signs.
Whether or not she slept with more than he's comfortable with, or has a reputation of lying about sleeping around, which would be red flags, right?
Okay, so you think that's pretty easy. So how would you
Yes,
can just
it's
ask
pretty
around
easy.
and then men will tell him.
No, well, here's the thing about women that's great, right? They never shut the fuck up. So the greatest thing about them is they like to narrate their lives, and they like to do that especially with their friends.
Right.
And women also like their
Oh,
friends like to
God.
cause trouble. If you start poking around inside of a woman's female circle, they start blabbing about all kinds of shit about exes, where they've been, where they haven't been. They do this constantly.
Okay, so I want to get back to the, because we never finished the step by step, so I'd really like to finish that. So you want men to wait for the non-virgin women, correct?
No, I don't. No,
So
Yeah,
you want
he's
them to
never said
sleep
that.
together
not my
a
position.
month
What's
in?
my tell me what my position is.
You said that you wanted men to wait till marriage.
I
even
said
if
that
the
would be
woman-
more optimal
Okay.
for men's health to do X thing
Okay.
is not a prescription that they should do X thing. So
Okay.
just because it mitigates risk for you as a man
Mm-hmm.
to, if you fall in love with a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right, for her to have a low body count, that still mitigates your risk. Is not me prescribing that you go find a woman who's not a virgin and marry her. That's absurd. We're talking about the outcomes here, the
Okay.
pragmatic approach.
Okay,
Yeah.
but practically, what
Mhm.
percent of women do you think are marriageable? What percent?
That's hard to say. I don't know. I
Really?
mean, as a
This whole
practicality,
debate, and you didn't even think about this question at all?
no, I thought about the question,
Okay.
but it's a very difficult question to notate how many exactly.
Okay.
Like, how many women have red hair?
Yeah, because also different women would be marriageable to different men. Like you can't just, that's not like that would be impossible to even guess. Like, what does that even mean?
I don't know.
Mhm.
How many women, have red? I don't know the actual answer
You've
to this.
interviewed so
But
many.
I still think that somewhere around at least 20-25%
Okay.
of eligible marriageable women within the
Okay.
elements of marriageable men is a good distinct possibility they work out, because that's what the stats show me, that almost
Okay.
60% of these marriages actually do work out
Okay.
long term if they're under the right conditionals.
Well, if they're religious, right?
No, that significantly increases it from 60%.
Okay. Okay. So you want men to find these 20. So the majority of women are not going to work, right? So you're saying to men, you might find out of 1 out of 4 women.
Holy shit,
You
lady.
might get a
That's
wife.
not what he said.
No,
And
I was
so-
talking about the totality of the population.
Okay, fine.
But if
So-
you insert risk
All right.
mitigation for marriageable women, right, then your
think it's
odds
1 out of
actually
4.
drastically
Sure,
increase.
1 out
Yeah.
of- You think 1 out of 4 women have a body count under 10?
No, I didn't say that either.
But you said marriageable.
But I mean,
so
I
you
think-
think
I think
men
probably-
should accept? Do you think men should accept
Yeah.
more than 10?
Well, here,
that's
let's
probably
just
true.
Do you think
go
men
to
should
the stats
accept
and
more
see.
than 5? Well,
How many women have
well,
less than a 3 body
yeah,
count?
but I don't trust stats that women report their
Oh,
body
okay.
count.
So now, whatever the data says, it's wrong too.
I mean, if women say it, yeah.
Oh my
Come on.
God, she is
If it's
you are
asking
such
women
a
about
clown.
body count, come on, Andrew. You gotta
Just put
be
the
realistic
paint on.
here.
Yeah, it looks like it's somewhere, the average of it
Mm-hmm.
is about 50% of women by the time they're marriageable age have less than a 5 body count. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking at.
You have been out of the dating market too long, Andrew.
This is the stats I'm looking at.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Does she think women lie to their doctors about this stuff, or their psychiatrist? Like, anonymously in studies, they lie about this stuff? She's out of her mind.
Now we're looking at marriageable age, which is going to be between
Okay.
the age of 19 and 29, right? So we're looking at marriageable age for
Okay.
children. Now,
Okay,
is that
so-
the case? I don't know if that's the case.
Okay,
But
so-
ultimately, who cares ultimately
Okay.
anyway? The truth
Who
of the matter
cares
is
about
that even if
body
it's
count?
damaged,
Ooh,
no,
who cares about
That's
body
not what I
count?
said.
Men
Who
should
cares
just
anyway about the
accept that?
topic?
Holy shit, lady. This whole entire hour and a half so far, approximately, is just a total straw man. I mean, this is insanity.
No. At
Mm-hmm.
the topic at hand, the case of the matter is that even if none of them right now were marriageable, and they were all fucking skanks, and they all had dozens of bodies, we would still be trying to move society towards a reform of such a system and not try to black pill and nihilism all. That would be stupid. Ultimately, when we look at
So,
men's happiness, they want to get married, right?
Okay, fine. I want to get back to the step by step. You're happily married. Let's get to the step by step.
For what?
We're getting stuck at the waiting. So what's after that? So then you marry her.
I don't
and
understand. What is the question you're asking me?
She's not
if you're
asking.
giving a
It's just-
prescription, I want a detailed how to do it. So
Oh, well, what you
okay.
do is you get a club and you walk over to a chick and you bash her in the fucking head and you take her
Mhm.
back to your house and you
Mhm.
bang her, right? That's a detailed step-by-step plan.
Mhm.
Or did you maybe want to talk about viable
the caveman days
prescriptions
plan.
rather
Go ahead,
than
viable. What
Andrew
should-
gives dating advice,
what
which has
should-
nothing at all to do with the conversation of moving men towards
Well, if
marriageability.
yeah, but you're okay. So if you want men to get married, you can't tell them how to get there. Really? Really?
That's fucking stupid. What are you talking? Why
Okay.
would I need to be a determining factor for every individual man on Earth for a step-by-step guide of how they get married? That's fucking retarded.
Okay. Well,
Like
okay.
that's
Hilarious.
literally retarded. Why would
Okay,
you
my
even ask that?
my producer's on the market. 40-year-old guy in the
Mhm.
Midwest. What should he do? There you go.
Lose weight.
Okay, then what?
I would start with that.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding, Mister. Look, I took a cheap shot because it was funny.
Oh, I forgot.
like the guy.
Oh,
I like the guy. I thought it was funny. I thought it was
I forgot
funny.
you met him.
Yeah. It was a look. He's skinnier than me. I'm just joking with the guy. I was kidding.
Okay,
right?
fine. Totally fine.
So yeah,
Hit the gym. That's
so
not
I
bad.
don't know. I don't know what the intricacies of his life are. Every
Okay.
every single individual is going to have a completely
So
different.
he should make the decision and not you, right?
No, based on where people are in the distinctions of their life. Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
ultimately everyone's
so
going to make their
I
own
just-
decision, but
Mhm.
hang on, stop.
Yeah, no,
I'm going
sorry.
to answer your fucking question.
Mhm.
Each individual person on planet Earth is going to have a unique set of circumstances,
Mhm.
which, because I'm not an omnipotent god nor psychic, have no ability at all
So
to
I-
understand in a comprehensive way. But I can still, even though I know that I'm not going to be able to tell how everybody on the road drives, I
Right.
can still tell you that a stop sign fucking works.
Right. So if that's true, why do you talk like one?
Like what?
Like you talk like you're the god that knows like the
I
best
don't.
way for people to
I've
live.
never done
Yeah,
that
you
one. In
do.
fact, I just told you that I would not sit here and
You,
Google
I mean, you
out
call
prescriptions
people
for
degenerates.
dating.
That you call people degenerates if they don't live exactly how you live.
No, I'm not asking them to live exactly how I live. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
yes, if you're
I just think
engaged in
people are tired. I
homosexuality.
just think people are tired of getting preached at, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are tired of you enabling the degeneracy of homosexuality because you won't give a prescription, right? Like,
What power do I have to?
I don't think anyone really cares about that. Yeah, there's oh god, this is utter brain rot.
Stop them.
you have the power of the vote, the power of influence, and not only that.
Right.
Here's the other thing that's so funny about this, right?
What,
It's like
what power do I
asking
like,
for, and when you ask for, hang on, real quick
Mm-hmm.
before we get to that, when you ask for these like detailed, give me a step-by-step guide. Pearl,
Mm-hmm.
you have a job, you're a podcaster, right? Give me a step-by-step guide for how everybody on planet Earth gets to work.
as a podcaster?
No, just as anything.
Well, I don't know how to do anything. I know how to do podcasting.
No, just how does every person on planet Earth get to work? Every one of them.
As a I could tell you how to
No,
do a
just
podcaster.
ever. Just ever. Anywhere, at any
I
circumstance,
wouldn't
at
say
any
that's
time.
really the same, but okay.
It's the same. You're asking me
Totally
to
fine.
write a prescription for every single individualistic circumstance on Earth for every man. That's insane.
Well, I know, but I gave you like what more
I'll do it. You acquire marketable skills. You apply for jobs that are interested in acquiring said marketable skills. And then you go to an interview and sell yourself to the company based on your marketable skills. And then eventually you get a job. And then usually you drive to work or take the train or whatever. But yeah, she couldn't figure that out.
information. You could ask more questions and I could give you specific answers. I don't even have to
Yeah.
use my producer.
I mean, why
but
would
like
you,
so
first of
so
all,
if
I'm not
I
a
was gonna
dating
if I was
coach.
I know,
That's not
but
what
if
I'm
I
here
was
to do.
if I was gonna give a quote, like if I was gonna do the podcasting one, like I would have a set of questions that I could easily give you a step by step.
Oh,
for
so
what
you
wanna
can't
do.
tell you can't
But-
just
but-
tell based on general circumstance, but
right.
you need to have
so then
individual
ask me,
experiences
right. So
tailored
ask
to the
me
person.
a few questions and then I can give you an
Yeah,
example
right,
of a
exactly. That's my
guy.
whole point. So when you ask me
I
for a
can-
prescription for
I know,
every
know.
man on Earth.
I didn't
I would
say
need
every
to
man on Earth.
individually
I didn't
ask
say
each of
every
them a
man-
bunch of questions.
I didn't say every man on Earth, but we can do a
Oh, okay.
hypothetical.
So that
we could do
yes,
a
you did.
hypothetical,
You
guy.
did.
Then why
You
don't
did.
we do a hypothetical? It should be easy.
I mean,
Ask me a few questions.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
okay,
Again,
give
I'm not okay. So I'm trying to answer. I'm not a
Okay.
dating coach. I've never said that I was a dating coach. But the thing is, I don't build highways either. But I sure know when the highway's fucked up, Pearl.
Okay. So you don't have any.
No, I've answered every single question. You don't understand how fallacious even the arguments
Okay.
you're making are, but how absurd the questions become
It's
when they're
absurd
reduced.
for me to, if you're giving a prescription, which I'm not, but you
Mhm.
are. It's absurd for me to ask questions of how
Yeah,
to
but
get
you
there.
No, you can ask whatever question you want, but just understand that when I
You-
equate it to you're trying to get me to give a prescription for every man on earth, which is stated multiple times, and then you change it to, well, this one individual man based on his unique set of circumstances, it's going to change and vary from person to person to person to person. It's
Did
like
you-
asking me what kind of car should
Yeah.
a man drive based on his unique set of circumstances. I don't fucking
Did
know.
you? I mean, okay. So, did you meet my dad when you were here? Did you meet him? I don't know if you.
I
did.
don't know.
Okay.
I don't.
So my dad,
know
he's
if it was
worked
him or
in
not.
okay, you might have maybe didn't. He's worked in software for like 30 years. He's a really pragmatic guy, right?
Yeah.
And the equivalent of what you're saying is like if you had an opinion on his software breaking, I mean, it's cool, and then you say, "Oh, well, this is what you should do with the software." And he would say, "Okay, well, how do I do it?" And then you say, "Well, I can't give you an answer," and that like he would just think you're an idiot.
Oh, well,
And
really?
it's the same.
So
it's
like,
the same.
so like, if
it's the
if
same.
a person was
I'm-
on YouTube and was like, "Hey,
and
you
I
should
wouldn't.
really
I know.
have a
I know.
live
I know
chat."
it. I know what you're gonna like. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what you're gonna try to equate it. So and that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying
YouTube
men,
should have a
and
live
you're
chat.
saying-
Oh
yeah.
yeah? Do you know how to put one in? No. Well, then you shouldn't tell them that they
Well,
should have a live
I
chat.
just,
That's
I
fucking
just,
stupid.
in my opinion,
That is
and I'll
literally
just,
stupid.
my opinion is you've just kind of been out of the dating game too long.
Maybe.
And I think you would get eaten alive. Like, I think if you believe that half of women have 3 bodies, I don't know how you believe that for doing
That's
like
not
whatever.
what I said.
I know,
That's
but you're
literally
citing,
not what I
Okay.
said. Why do you keep
okay.
framing
The body,
everything I
fine,
said?
fine. The body count stats that you cited would be so ridiculous to any guy actually.
They may
dating.
be. Listen,
right?
they
so
may be, but
I don't really.
literally said
I
just
don't,
based on what
I
I
don't.
personally
Right. I know. But I don't even know how you believe them with like being on whatever all
I
the time.
didn't say I believed
Okay.
them.
The women on the Whatever podcast are not an accurate representation of women in society at all. And the men that Pearl Davis talks to are not an accurate representation of men in society at all. That's insane.
Okay.
Like I've never said any of this.
I don't know if the best approach is gonna. I don't know if your prescription is working in the modern world. I think it's gonna leave a lot of guys
Well, that's
frustrated.
great. Pearl, do you have any prescription?
However, I do.
Do you have any
do,
prescription
as
at
I've
all?
said, I don't tell men how to live.
No, you have none.
I don't-
How do you criticize
don't.
anybody for anything? You have nothing to give,
I
nothing
don't.
to offer anybody.
Well, what I do is I do report on
That's true. She has absolutely nothing to offer anybody.
the facts and the trends and where I see things going. I'm in the business of prediction.
Yeah,
You
that's
keep-
fine to be a newscaster.
You keep.
but-
I that's what I do, right?
Yeah,
so
you can be a
I
newscaster.
do that.
But then how can you criticize anybody's odds,
I do the
though?
call-in shows.
Yeah.
Well, I don't criticize if you say this is a way you can do it or you could do it that way.
You mean all the things that I just said for risk mitigation?
But when you're saying if you don't live how I live, you're a degenerate.
Never
and
happened.
That's what you insinuate. You can keep
No,
saying. You can
I will
keep saying,
specifically say like
can-
homosexuality is degenerate.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
But if a guy chooses
Nah.
to live life on his own terms and not your terms, you insinuate that there's something wrong with them. If
yeah,
they
if
don't,
a man
they
decides to
don't-
live a life of promiscuity and drugs, I think he's
Right.
a degenerate. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Right, but I mean, this
yes.
is all kind of like, I mean, come on. Were you a virgin on your wedding day? Like, come on.
Never said I was.
Yeah, I know, and
I was
and
also
that's-
deeply steeped
I know,
myself
Like, come
in the
on.
degeneracy
I
of
know,
promiscuity.
I know.
It's no
But
secret.
but so the way it comes across to a lot of people is I had my fun, but you can't. And that's
Why
how
does it come
that's how it's going to come off
I
to
see.
people.
I see.
And I like
So
I am
therefore-
somehow and I am
I see.
somehow and I am
People can give advice from experience. You can say, oh, sorry. You can say I did this thing, X thing, and X thing did not lead to positive outcomes for my life. And if I were to give you advice, I would say you should not do X thing the way that I did. Like, I have a very, very promiscuous past. It did not lead to good outcomes in my dating life. I've had much better outcomes since I've stopped having as much of a promiscuous past. And that's basically the same thing Andrew is saying. And that's totally a reasonable thing to say if you believe that those two things are correlated. Like, if a drug addict told me, hey, don't do drugs, I would probably believe them. Like, they're the ones that did them. They would know whether or not to do them. Like, this argument is so fallacious just on its face. It makes no sense.
I'm somehow morally superior because
You've
you're
ever done
calling-
anything wrong? So I
Right.
also smoke and tell my kids not to smoke. What a scumbag! I can't believe it. Why would I do that?
Well,
Why would
that's
I
totally
smoke
fine with
and
your
also
kids.
tell my kids
Yeah.
not to?
That's
I also tell
totally-
your kids not to
It's totally
smoke.
fine with
I
children.
would tell your kids not to smoke.
But these are adult men. Like, they don't need to be nagged, right? You're like turning into a woman where you're nagging them.
Nobody's the only one who's nagging them is you because you're trying to knock down
This is not
every
nagging.
single societal prescriptor possible to help them.
That's not what I said. I said if men want to
Yes,
try,
it is.
if men want to try your way, I have no problem with that. You can try it. I don't think it's pragmatic in the modern world based on what I've seen.
Right, but you don't have a prescription about what's pragmatic. So you can't say I don't think it's pragmatic and then say because nothing is pragmatic and I have no interest in saying or making any prescriptions of my own. Like, it's absurd, Pearl. It's absurd.
But who am I to tell a guy how to date?
What
in
is
his personal
pragmatic
life?
in the modern world?
You are definitely nobody to tell anyone how to date. That's true. You got one right the whole time.
Can you tell me that?
I think it's tough.
That's not a fucking answer. It's not
Right.
pragmatic. Well, what's pragmatic? I don't know.
Well, I think most men can come up with their own solutions better than me, a YouTuber.
Then how can you make a claim that anything I say is not pragmatic when I say,
Hmm.
well, then what is pragmatic? And you say, I don't know.
I wouldn't predict that it would work. I could give my opinion, right?
Okay, so
but
what is that?
But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to label adult men as degenerate if they don't live according
Okay,
to
great.
my personal
So what is the most
morality.
pragmatic thing men can do? What is it?
I think the most pragmatic thing that men can do is look at the facts and make a decision based on the information he has about his own life. I think but I don't think,
You mean exactly what I have been saying the entire time?
no, but you say that you have
Literally
the answers, and I don't
mind-numbing.
think you do. Because I think
I didn't.
that
What answers did I say I had?
I think that the prescription you gave of a step-by-step of how to get to marriage would not work in the modern
What
dating
prescriptions
market.
did I give for that?
You gave a prescription on waiting for a woman that does not wait.
No. No, I didn't give that as a prescription. I
Mm-hmm.
only gave it as a contrast of outcome for men who go and hook up with those women and don't get married having worse outcomes.
Yeah.
That is not a prescription that you should do the thing, Pearl, for the 30th time.
Okay, well,
It's just both things bad, one thing worse.
right.
That's it.
But the way you're talking, it's like you're the ultimate morality police of what's good and bad.
Great. Give me a single
And-
moral prescription that I've given.
And
A single one.
and well, you insinuated that men are degenerates for what they do in their sex lives. Like, I don't think Donald Trump's a degenerate, even though he's been married 3 times.
I think he
right?
was a degenerate.
I don't think so. I think he
Yeah,
made the
okay,
most.
so-
Yeah, I don't think so.
So then I just want to make sure I
But-
got this right.
Hmm.
Any sexual behavior men engage with, you don't believe is degenerate.
I think men are responding to the rules that women made.
Can you use
Women.
yes
So
or no
I
would
don't.
be great.
I don't.
Yes or no
I,
would be great.
I gave you an answer. Men
Is
are,
it yes or
men
no?
are,
Is there anything men
I
can
will-
do sexually with people
I
that you
will.
find degenerate?
Men
Can
are
they fuck a dog?
Men
If they
are,
fuck a dog, are they
men
degenerate, Pearl?
Men are responding to the rules that women made.
So,
So
if a man fucks a dog, can we call him degenerate?
that's just gross.
Okay, can we at least say that's degenerate?
I mean, I would just say it's disgusting. Like, that's nasty.
But not degenerate. You're still not willing to call that degenerate?
I mean, if you want to like be the moral
If a man grabs another man and fucks him up the hairy ass, that's not degenerate?
If you want to essentially like act as a preacher, it's totally fine. I just think people are tired
What's
of
the
it.
preaching? There's no preaching. I just asked you a question. I've never preached on this channel ever. I'm still not preaching. I'm just offering real world solutions under the same very idea of pragmatism. So my question to you again, can you at least say that a man who fucks a dog is a degenerate?
That's disgusting. I'll call that a degenerate. Fine.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Fucking finally. You get caught. But a man who fucks another man up his hairy asshole is not.
I mean, do your thing.
I mean, I just don't care if he does that. That's
is that a degenerate or not?
I mean, that's gross, but
you don't know. You don't know if that's degenerate.
Look, I'm just not here. I'm not here to tell men what to do in their sex lives. I think people are tired of getting policed, and like men from the time they're really
sorry
young.
That some men who fuck dogs are tired of getting policed.
That's not what I'm saying. Like men from a young age are shamed for their sexuality. They're shamed from a super young age. They're told they're not like they're wrong for watching porn. They're told they're wrong for wanting to have sex with women. They're told they're wrong for approaching. I don't think we need another person telling them they're wrong.
Literally none of that is true. Maybe the corn thing, but none of the rest of that was true.
This is great. So
they're wrong for they're wrong. So let me get this right.
All the things you think have bad outcomes for men.
Stop interrupting me. Stop.
Yeah. All the things you think have bad outcomes for men, we should still promote.
Andrew, like I'm trying to be nice, but like you're on my show. Can you stop interrupting me, please?
Yeah, you interrupt as much as I do, if not more.
Okay, I don't think that's true, but it's okay.
And by the way, who's on whose show right now, really?
You're on, you are a very big YouTuber. Okay, you're very big. You're very famous. Okay, so, but I just think men from a young age have been shamed for their sexuality. I don't think they really need someone else doing it. And it just comes off as like a holier than thou when you're constantly calling them degenerates for responding to the environment that women made. I don't think it's pragmatic for most men to wait until they're 30 to have sex. I don't think that, and most women don't select most men until they're in their late 20s, early 30s. Go ahead.
So let me get this right, just to make sure that I have this correct. Me, Pearl Davis, don't want to govern the behavior of men. How dare you call men who engage in sexual promiscuity degenerates, even though that would be, you governing the behavior of me, man, right? Pure hypocrisy on display, yes?
Oh, it's almost over. Thank God.
Well, I can't control it. I can't control anything they do.
Yeah, but somehow you can give a prescription that I shouldn't be doing that, but I can't give a prescription for what other people should be doing. Well, you
can. You totally can, but it's just
But you just think people are tired of it. They're tired of men saying this is really bad for men to do for their own health. Yes.
I would say that men are pretty tired of being nagged for their sexuality in general.
Oh, well, I mean, that's terrible that men...
She would never extend that same courtesy to women ever. Ever. Even though historically women have been far more nagged for their sexualities. Always. This isn't even arguable. But she would never extend that same courtesy to them. Ever.
Get told that they're not allowed to have anal sex with other men because they're degenerates. That's just terrible, bro. Somehow I think that men, though, by and large, are going to agree with me on this, that degenerate behavior and honorifics in men is something which men generally tend to steer clear of, especially on honor cultures, which is the culture that we come from.
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with religion at all.
I don't think what you're selling is a good sell. So... I think
I'm selling something at least, right? Okay. You're not selling anything, just descriptors. It's
totally fine.
You're like a news broadcast, like the Red Pill News broadcast.
I do the news, it's fine.
All right.
But yeah, I don't think men are gonna really watch this and think this is a great thing.
Well, since we already read the comment section, we actually know that everyone who watched this agreed with Andrew. Everyone that watched it. Maybe not every single person, but all of the top comments that I scrolled through, and I probably scrolled through like 30 or 40 comments, all of them agreed with Andrew. All of them.
A ton out of this because there's no selling point. You get a ex-ho That's like pretty much what you're saying. Or maybe a girl that's fucked 2 other dudes.
Literally not saying any of that. In
Okay.
fact, the opposite. In fact, I'm trying to initiate inside any sort of reform so that we can get away from that. But the second I do, you say, how dare you preach about degeneracy?
Okay, is
and
that...
it's like, well, wait, you can't have
Okay,
high body counts
right,
if they're not fucking them, Pearl.
Right.
And they can't have high body counts if they're not fucking. One thing
Right,
called
but
social shame, which leads to degeneracy, is that.
I don't think anything you're saying is very realistic. I think it like kind of sounds like
you just switch between these 2 arguments. Is it that I call
Right,
it degenerates, or that you think it's not realistic?
well, I think there's 2 parts to it. The one is that you're shaming men for their behavior and their sexuality, and 2 is that I think that none of the changes that you're talking about really are realistic anytime soon. And so men have to make decisions on marriage today.
How dare you, Andrew? How dare you shame men for their sexuality when women have been shamed for their sexuality for all of history? How dare you, Andrew? You monster.
And unfortunately, the value prop you're saying just isn't great. Because
So-
at
God.
the end of the day, men's kids don't belong to them.
At least he's
Women
consistent.
have more power in the media, in the state, and in society in general. And so I don't really see that men rushing to sign up to get married.
Great. So tell me again, what's the most pragmatic thing men can do right now then?
Whatever they
It
want.
depends on the guy. I can't speak about
That's what
men
Andrew
as a
said.
collective,
Can't
so,
okay.
Yeah.
The most the most pragmatic thing that men can do, I don't know. Depends on the guy. Andrew, walk me through dating. Well, I don't know. It depends on the guy.
Because
no,
you
that's
were
not
giving
good
a prescription, but it's okay.
Not only that,
It's
on the
okay. I do have
one last
another.
thing. I just got one
I
last
do
thing.
have
Got one
another
last thing.
guest coming, so I do have to go.
Yeah. But I got one
But,
last thing,
okay.
just real quick.
Okay.
To summarize this.
I'm
My
gonna send
interest
it.
is-
I'm listening. I'm just sending. the link
My
to the
interest
next
is in
guest.
men's health and men's welfare and in men's well-being. Ultimately, I've given nothing but great prescriptions towards that. You've given nothing towards that. Instead, you just offer epistemic nihilism over and over and over again. And you can't actually refute any of the points without telling me what I should be doing. It's like a performative contradiction on its face.
Okay.
Now, listen, here's the thing that's funny about this. I won't go on a monologue for a closer here. I did enjoy the conversation ultimately, and I know as heated as this got, I want my entire
'cause
chat
he's gonna
to know,
clip the
and yours
shit out of
too,
it.
I don't have any problems with Hannah, never will. I don't have any problems with Pearl Davis, all right? I've always respected the work that she does, but sometimes this kind of like in-house slugfest is necessary and good for all sides. And I still consider her to be a friend. I know that this was a very heated debate ultimately, but I don't have any bad blood towards you. I just want to let you know that.
I have a lot of bad blood towards you. I'm never talking to you again.
That's fair.
I'm just kidding.
That's fair. Anyway,
hold on.
I think that this sort
Next-
of thing is good ultimately.
Yeah. Have you debated who have you debated in the red pill space?
I don't know.
Literally
A lot of them.
everyone.
I was just curious. Okay, well, thanks for coming on. We have amorous
He's debated
husbands
literally
on next. Do you know who
everyone.
that is?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be wild.
Oh, that's another shit show. We're not gonna watch that though.
Okay.
Because that's going to be a fucking wild one. But look, really, there's no bad blood. I know that my job is to debate my worldview the
Yeah,
best
there's no
I
way she
possibly
talks to
can.
them for long enough for it
Sometimes
to be
that has
interesting.
created conflict with people like you who are friends of mine in the past. I definitely don't want that. And I am very much a supporter of the types of work that you do with the descriptors that you put out. I think that they're golden, many of them. I've used many of those stats myself. So there's no bad blood here. Never think for a second there is.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Do you know what? The funny thing is, I always am hesitant to use your first name because I forget yours is public.
Yeah, no.
Because so
Andrew's
many
fine,
people
yeah.
in this space are like not public, so I always have to like think about it first. I'm like, wait, no, I don't have to call you the Crucible. Thanks for coming, Andrew.
All right. Thank you, Pearl. Have a good day.
Okay, bye. All right, guys.
Okay. All right. In summary, well, everyone was right. That was absolutely a complete and utter shit show. I mean, I find myself agreeing with Andrew Wilson on certain points. You know that he's debating someone absolutely insane. Like that was rough. I mean, I won't say, no, I've seen worst faith debate before. for sure. But wow. But that was here. That was absurd. That was out of this world. I mean, I don't even really have much to say. I mean, she kept saying, I don't give prescriptions. I don't give prescriptions for men. I don't like telling men what to do. And let's just be clear, Pearl Davis gives prescriptions all the time. She can't go through one reel without giving 10 opinions. Like in her debate with Ethan Klein, she's saying, I think divorce should be illegal. She made all kinds of claims, And she does it all the time. She does it when she goes to podcasts. She does it probably on, maybe she doesn't do it on this news show that she does. But generally speaking, Pearl gives her opinion and makes prescriptive arguments all the time. For her to sit here and say that she doesn't is absurd. Now, I don't agree with all of Andrew Wilson's prescriptions. He was at least making some sound arguments based in evidence. They were thoroughly informed by his Christian worldview, and I would say that his Christian worldview is a slightly higher priority to him than caring about the health and well-being of men. I don't think that's his main priority in all of this. I think it's definitely a lot more to do with his Christian worldview, but yeah, I mean, we all saw it. And the comment section, when I post this, the comment section will be about halfway through the video where we scrolled I had to pause the video because Pearl was saying, well, we'll see how everyone, how the viewers feel about this. Every top comment for at least the first 50 was all in support of Andrew Wilson. Like, Pearl, you're insane. Pearl, that was so bad faith. It was all the same. And I just don't know how a person can be so far removed from reality. I mean, and another thing, Andrew gave her way too much grace. If he had just been debating with literally anyone else, he would have lost his mind. He would have been screaming, interrupting every minute. He would have been, he would have been losing his damn mind, which, who wouldn't? That was the least good faith debate. Not the least, but it was up there. That is definitely going to go down in history as one of the most absurd shit shows of a debate anyone's ever seen. Just absolutely bonkers. My mind is blown. I know Pearl isn't the smartest, but that was unbelievable to sit there and, one of her first opening lines, Andrew asked her if it was generally good that women are way more promiscuous, and is woman's promiscuity a good thing for women in society? And the first thing she said was, well, I don't really want to go down this slippery slope because, I'm in the business of predicting blah, blah, blah. And Andrew was like, oh, okay. So pragmatically, do you think it's good? And she goes, well, no, but I think that women don't seem to be experiencing any consequences for their promiscuity, which is unfortunate. Unfortunate is a morally prescriptive claim. Is it unfortunate? If it's unfortunate that women are more promiscuous, then you think it's bad. Morally. Like, I don't she contradicted herself before they even got 2 minutes into the conversation. I mean, absolutely absurd. I mean, and then, you know, Andrew's a little absurd with his, you know, homosexuals are degenerate and all that shtick that he does. But wow. I mean, that was just absurd. And then the fluffing each other up at the end, even though he literally just sat through like the worst faith debate, I think probably of like his existence. Cause that was atrocious. Yeah, I don't know. Not a lot of words for this one, guys. Just absolutely nonsensical. But anyway, I'm going to a concert. We're going to call it a day.